Testing. Alright, so I think you guys should be able to hear me now. Oh, that sucks. I really went through all that spiel and everything. So, okay. You guys can hear me now. I know I'm on a delay, let me know, and then I'll go back into the beginning. Okay, sweet. Yeah, so that was totally my fault, I guess. I guess like the OBS used it into the default settings, but didn't go back into the microphone that I had set up. So I'll take that as my L. So thank you guys for telling me. Sorry for the unprofessionalism. So yeah, I did welcome back everybody individually into the stream. So thank you everybody once again for joining me for another stream of Dark Souls 3 lore. As I mentioned yesterday, this is a bit more of a casual playthrough, so don't expect some very good gameplay or even some good streaming quality at times. So yeah, aside from that, let me go back into my notes. Okay, yeah, so as far as some like channel updates goes, I am learning more about YouTube as I continue, and so I found out about Super Chat and stickers, and so they might be a good way for people who like want me to read their message to highlight that a bit more. They're kind of like bits on Twitch, I suppose. They're like channel donations, so you don't have to feel pressured, but I just wanted to let you guys know that if you were into that kind of thing, that's enabled now. I'm also looking into channel memberships, so that way people can like subscribe to my channel, but on like the YouTube version. I might try to incorporate that with some of like the Patreon rewards that I have set up already, or I might remove some of my Patreon type stuff, because it seems like it might be easier to just go through YouTube with some of the features that I want to provide. So keep that in mind for now. So I was saying that yesterday we did finish off with Port of the Boreal Valley, and we started off with the Dancer. So since this is a bit more of a casual lore through, I am fine with dying to some of the bosses. What else was I saying? Oh yeah, I might start summoning people in and viewing them with like binoculars during the fight to get some more third-party perspectives, or third-person perspectives. And then following up with that, I might also start using my save states a bit more, just to get maybe multiple advantages of some of these bosses dying. So I was only going to do the Dancer like once, but with the technical difficulties, I just back while I was thinking about it. So, okay. Isaac says, your video explaining the right and left hand path was really cool. You notice how Al has a really skinny right arm and the Divine Dragon doesn't have left arm at all? Thank you, I appreciate those kind of comments. Hello, Brisson, welcome back. Legend, nice to see you. Zemyth Leo. This dude is a heck of an invader, so watch your back if this guy's online. So yeah, welcome back to the stream, everybody. So sorry for the technical difficulties. So that was the Dancer, and coming out, we can look out into the high wall of Lothric. We can see that there's a bridge over here, but it's completely dilapidated and broken. And that's the Undead Settlement, if I remember. That's what it's called in Dark Souls 3. So you can look out into the distance and see more of the actual landscape of the area. So that's like the the swamp area way down there. Oh, so okay, I can choose to enable the banner. Okay, so that's cool. So those are like the bonfires, or not bonfires, but the fires that we'll light later on to get to the Abyss Walker Arena, Cathedral of the Deep. So, for footage purposes, I'm just gonna like try to do a slow pan. So, Venom asks, have I ever seen Lance's video showing the Vort had babies on his stomach? I do believe so, but I don't remember like a lot of the Dark Souls cut content. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I've seen that. Oh, Carlos, nice to see you. Okay. So yeah, we got the banner from Emma after defeating Vort, well, before defeating Vort, and so we can raise it to get these like gargoyle demons to ferry us across the bridge. So they're the exact same type of demons that were used in Dark Souls 1 to ferry the chosen undead to Undo. Just kind of a cool reference. It's a bit weird that they transport us over here. I mean, that does call into question, is like the ruins of Lothric supposed to have taken the place of Anor Londo? However, once we get further ahead, that doesn't kind of work out, considering what we'll see after Pontiff Sullivan. So, I think there's some treasure over here. Yep. We get the large soul of a deserted court. And so, I do like how well the areas are connected. So, I mean, obviously we're not too far away, but we can still see like all these hollows over here. It seems like some of them are trying to get into the settlement, but they're locked out for now. We can see there's a bunch of carrion crows flying over it. And we can even see the giant with his bow atop the tower. Brisson asks, what do I want my policy to be on backseat gaming? Okay, so yeah, that's one of the other things that I said when I was muted, so thank you for bringing that back up, because I forgot. I don't mind backseat gaming too much, especially if I'm missing something for like the lore. It's really easy to just kind of get distracted as you're going through this stuff. So yeah, I don't mind to like a fairly minor degree. I've played through Dark Souls a couple times. I'll also ask you guys for advice. So yeah, they do open the gates to the settlement, and then the hollow dogs do attack all of the hollows over there. And they will be aggressive towards the player as well. Hello, you're Ashley and you just discovered my content. You're on video 7, my Bloodborne playthrough. You love it. Thanks for making great videos. Well, thank you for watching, Ashley. It's nice to have you here, and I hope you stick around and enjoy the show. Wenders, nice to see you again. You say, I'm planning on doing lore vids focused on Dark Souls, or use Dark Souls lore to support my points on Bloodborne lore. So far, like right now, I still have more I want to focus on Bloodborne first, and obviously, like, I'm not quite as familiar with Dark Souls. However, with that being said, I will focus on some aspects of Dark Souls, and I probably will make a few limited videos on them, or focus on some like limited translation on things. Other than that, I might like do some of the bigger themes, but that's a good question. So for now, I think as we move forward, I will focus a bit more on Bloodborne, and then once I make like maybe 1 or 2 more videos more specifically on that, I'll start spreading out into more FromSoft games in general, and even maybe further content beyond that. So thank you for asking. Alex says, why would those demons bring you to the settlement? Like Dark Souls 1, are we getting guided to a certain destination by someone? So it seems like they're trying to lead us to go get the people, to get the lords to go back to their thrones. It's kind of weird because in Dark Souls 1 they do seem to have like more of a like a real duty with what they're trying to perform, and this one it's just like, well, whatever, I don't know. So the dogs were surrounding the alluring skull, and it's a skull resplendent in the scent of souls, prepared by evangelists in the Cathedral of the Deep. Throw to shatter, spreading souls which attract enemies, not effective for all foes. So this is something that's kind of used in a few of their games where they just kind of have like a lure that will attract enemies. And so this shows that like dogs and hollows are attracted to the scent of souls. So that's just kind of something that's pretty common within all the games and just kind of fits together. And I don't believe, I haven't read a few items, so I'll just kind of go ahead and look at them now. So, green blossom is a green weed shaped like a flower, temporary boost to stamina recovery speed. The Undead Legion of Aaron are remembered for using this annual plant, normally found near clear water, to swing their mighty swords with abandon. So this fact that it calls it like that it's found around clear water is interesting. Might make me believe that these green blossoms could be responsible for maybe cleaning up some of the impurities, and that might be why they're effective. That could be completely off base, but I know others have pointed out to me, like within Demon Souls, like the more potent spice is the old spice, like the more like fermented or rotted kinds of things in FromSoft games tend to have more potent effects or things more associated with like magical powers. Justin says the Batwing demons are an oddity in the series. Their weapons are made of other demons, and it's shown they follow the gods' orders. Yeah. The Wonder says, in a way, they will help you inherit the legacy of the gods by helping you in your quest to reach the flame. Yeah, that's the only way that I can really think to parse it myself. So, throwing knives. Most items choose their wielder. Only experience can improve their effectiveness. True strength can be gained in no other way. Interesting. So, firebomb. Fire damage, which differs from physical damage, is highly effective against creatures of flesh, beasts, and other foes that might naturally have cause to fear the flame. So this is interesting that like it specifies that like, there are different damage types. Obviously, that's more of like game mechanics than like lore, but they do tie the lore into it by saying that it's more effective against like corporeal creatures and beasts, and so that could just be more taken from like real life, where one of the things that separated man from other animals would be like our ability to harness flame and use that to kind of take shelter from predators and things like that. So Alex says, in Demon Souls, the full moon grass is the strongest. You think it's based on the cycle of the moon? That's interesting. I don't know too much about Demon Souls beyond pretty much just like what the role of the old one is, to be honest. Thank you for that input. From the Derm says, you noticed in one of my videos I mentioned that I didn't support the theory that the moon presence wanted you to kill Murgo. Why were you sent on the hunt though? I do want to talk about that, but maybe not right now, just because it'll kind of distract me a bit more. So, sorry. I might answer that if I get a little bit more free time and you bring it back up. We already looked at some of these souls. They kind of say everything. They say the same thing, so. So this is White Sign Soapstone. Be summoned to another world as a phantom through your sign and defeat the area boss to gain the strength of flame. The nature of Lothric is murky, unclear. The White Sign Soapstone allows Unkindled to assist one another. So I don't really know if there's cultural significance to soap, but it's kind of interesting to think about, I suppose. And then the Black Separation Crystal is a charm of farewell granted to banished undead. The crystal sends phantoms back to their homes, or you back to yours. Beware of fickle use of this item if you intend to nurture relations. Interesting. So the way of the White Circlet restores the connection to other worlds. Those who engage in unjust deeds when in contact with other worlds will lose their connection to them. Way of White Circlets assume such sin as their own, but are found few and far between. Acting without honor will never be without risk. So yeah, there is a kind of interesting way that they do try to incorporate some of the more like multiplayer PvP elements into the lore at large. So let me check chat and then I'll go ahead go a little bit further, and then once I talk to Yol, I'll probably go back to the items and the weapons. The legend says, the contrast between Batwings taking us from a lower area to the god's home in Dark Souls 1, from a grand kingdom to a small settlement in 3 interests you. You wonder if there's any meaning behind that. It's a interesting way to look at it. I'd probably want to think about that more myself. So, Limited SEO Incorporated, welcome to the stream. Question, would you ever consider making a video on the connection between Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3? I would go more about like the thematic connections as opposed to like more like it's the same universe, just because the developers have specified multiple times that they aren't meant to be related. I think what relations that we do get are more just like a developer Easter eggs, kind of like in the vein of patches for the most part. So Wender says, you didn't ask me, but Mia says that the baby... Okay. So... Risan says, do you have a day job, or are you able to do YouTube full-time? I do some translation work on the side, so I can kind of set my schedule as I choose for the most part, but I could potentially do YouTube full-time if it does become sustainable. I don't think we're quite at that point yet, but yeah. Okay.
Please, grant me death. Undo my shackles.
Probably should have just stayed still. So it almost looks like he's got like tumors or something growing out of his arm. Almost, I don't know. Interesting. So yeah, it's really easy to miss Yol because all of these pilgrims are like already dead and kind of like petrified. We see that they're all pointed towards like where we just flew in from. So that little like crevice over there is where we just got brought down from. They're all kind of pointed that way. And so you can even follow like the bridge, kind of. Yeah. I don't know what's like in their urns, probably like incense of some sort. And I think others have pointed out like the shells on their backs might be related to purifying stones. I meant to look it up. I just got a little bit pressed for time, or maybe that's not true. Maybe just a little bit sidetracked and didn't think about it. So a little bit of my fault. So, alright, we're going to talk to Yol, and I wish it was a little bit easier to use the binoculars in here to get like better footage. Just go like it.
Oh. Oh, then it's true. A champion of Ash as I live and breathe. To be in your presence is a great honor. I am Yol of Londor, a pilgrim, as you can see, only somehow I failed to die as was ordained. Well, perhaps my calling lies elsewhere. Say, champion of Ash, how does the idea of taking me into your service strike you? I was once a sorcerer. Surely I can be of use.
So you can accept his service or decline. It doesn't really matter which you do. You can talk to him again to get him to join you. But there is a limited amount of time for it.
I am honored, truly. I should be dead, yet you have granted me purpose anew. I, Yol of Londor, do solemnly swear myself to you.
So yeah, he just poofs, which is kind of cool. Don't really know if there's anything like in the game to explain that very well, but that totally did remind me I forgot to go talk to Grey Rat, so that's probably what we're gonna do next. Maybe I should also start saving before I talk to the NPCs, but I don't know. It's just like one of those things of having a little bit good foresight if you want to make multiple videos, but honestly, like what I'm going for isn't too connected to like a lot of these smaller details so much, so it's not super important for what I'm going with right now. But it's still probably better to do that just with like a future-proofing further videos. Alright, so going back to chat. Embargo says, notice he said shackles, which leads to the concept of the shackles of the gods, the vertebrae you collect. Yeah, and so that idea of shackles is used throughout many of their games. So it seems like ones I don't want to say like humanity and like the Dark Souls concept, but I guess that's just kind of an issue of the English, in that holding on to like one's inner man and like trying to hold on to that and repress feelings of madness or beasthood or strong emotions is consistent in like Dark Souls, Bloodborne, as well as Sekiro. So shackles are kind of interesting. And I do have some questions about like the supposed shackles that the gods placed on man, because I never really got that vibe from like the original Dark Souls, but it's pretty played up in Dark Souls 3. Oh, that's weird. It was not attacking. So that's a little bit of my fault for forgetting that I had the binoculars on at first and then not switching back. It's one of the harder aspects of like HUD-less play, but it's really not too bad. Just kind of me screwing up. So it shouldn't be too important, right? So Under says, right, embargo. The term shackle is already used by Aldi and Shanalot in Dark Souls 2, and it's related to the curse. Yeah. Kerm says stuff about the baby. Angel. Kerm says, Justin says, angels and hollowing seem to have a connection to trees and roots. You can see hollows turning into trees, and these pilgrims have roots sprouting under their rocks. Yeah, and so that ties into like some of the things that we see along the high wall as well. Thanks for bringing that back up. When we get back to the pilgrims, I'll try to look at them a little bit more closely, because that's something I did not notice, as I appreciate that attention to detail. This guy can make the barrels explode, I remember now. And then we did pick up the key to Grey Rat's cell further on in this tower, or castle.
Ah. You're no jailer, are you? No, you're from far away. And judging by the bell, you must be some of that unkindled ash. Remarkable. If that's true, then I have a favor to ask. Below the high wall is a musty little town. Not the home of any lord, just a very old settlement of undead. An old woman, Loretta, lives there. Please, give her this ring. I'm not asking for charity. In fact, if you do this for me, I'll be sure to repay you in kind. I may be a petty thief, but I've more wits than most royalty. What do you say then, huh?
So you can grant his request or refuse it. It doesn't really hurt you to do it, so we're going to go ahead and do it.
Very well. I humbly place my faith in you. I am Grey Rat of the Undead settlement, and I promise to assist you. Give this ring to old Loretta at the base of the high wall. Do your part, and I'll do mine.
So he also just vanishes. That's going to be a pretty common theme in Dark Souls 3, and then we get the blue Tearstone ring from him. So this is actually a fairly straightforward quest for a lot of like the FromSoft games. So go ahead and equip that, and then go back to the high wall. And so yeah, Kerm, I'm not like trying to avoid your question. I do appreciate it. It's just a little bit difficult for me to manage chat as well as like the lore and like switching my brain from Dark Souls mode to Bloodborne mode. So if you do want to talk about that for more, for more info, like you could always like join the Discord, and that's probably one of the easiest ways to talk to me off stream for sure. Oh. Alright, so that was Grey Rat, and then he does give us that quest to go back into the Undead settlement. But before we're going to do that, we're just going to go back to the Firelink Shrine and then talk to the NPCs we've just sent over there. And so Wenders thinks that the vertebra shackles are connected to the curse. Notice the ring knight attire description on the early gods placing a seal of fire on early humans. Yeah. I do know that there are some connections. It just never really meshed with me very well, so I kind of want to take a deeper look at that myself and just kind of ruminate on what that means a bit more. So this is a Grey Rat over here.
Oh, hello, you're back. And in one piece. Well, now it's time I do my part. Whatever trinket you need, speak up. Just don't ask me where I got them. Do me a favor and don't forget our promise. Give this ring to old Loretta at the base of the high wall. A nuisance, I know, but it will help me tie up some loose ends. Do me a favor and don't forget our promise.
I'd skip this, but with the binoculars I can't.
At the base of the high wall. A nuisance, I know, but it will help me tie up some loose ends.
Eric says the way he sees Shackle put on by the gods is the very idea of life that has been completely fabricated for humanity. I don't know about that. It's kind of weird to talk about the concept of life in Dark Souls to a certain degree, because life is intertwined with the First Flame and souls, but there's also the dualistic component of the Dark Soul, which kind of separates man from other forms of life, but not really. But yeah, just the curse in itself, at times I've wondered whether or not like the Dark Sign is burning away humanity or if it's trying to contain humanity. I think there's ways you could probably argue for both interpretations, or maybe even other ones. So yeah, I might develop my thoughts a bit more on that as we go through and continue to talk lore. So. And then Gabriel agrees with Eric. The shackles are life. Being hollow is humanity's original state. Or not hollow, but undead. Yeah, so that's like one of the things that's a bit harder to piece together with everything. Looks like... Okay, just... I would like to get a shield that maximizes physical defense, just because it's easy mode at that point, and so I might save up for the great sword. Obviously, we lost some souls to the dancer, but it's not too big a deal.
Goodbye, and stay safe. Oh, this place is a bore. What good is thievery if you've nowhere to go?
So yeah, I forgot to mention it, but Grey Rat is a thief. Interestingly, he wears like the thrall hood, so it just kind of shows that he's a weak person. I mean, that he doesn't have like a lot of strength compared to like the Ashen One or some of the other more knightly type characters. He does fit that like common character trope of a rogue and having like low vitality, I guess. That'll become a bit more relevant later. So this is where Yoel goes after we talk to him from the High Wall.
Oh, our champion of Ash, welcome home. This pilgrim, with a debt in death, hardly deserves to behold this divine flame. And I never would have, had you not taken me into your service. I thank you dearly for this, and assure you of my leal service.
So, Yoel can be used to level up and gain more dark sigils. I'm not sure if I want to do that this time. I might, probably relevant for me to do so for this playthrough maybe. So I don't really remember the entire steps for the quest off the top of my head. I should probably look it up or just kind of rely on you guys. Going back to some of the chat, Reson says the shackles of the vertebrae could have to do with the curse of hallowing that Gwyn placed on the pygmies out of fear of them achieving the Age of Dark. And we become hollows when we use our humanity to prolong the fire. It's a bit weird. Like I mentioned yesterday, I'm not entirely sure if it's possible to read it as the dark consuming the flames or the dark being the fuel of the flames. So you would almost think that if dark was the fuel of the flames and that's what is used to restore humanity in Dark Souls 1, that more darkness could be good for the state of the world, because like when people have humanity they're not hollows, and that seems good to a certain extent. But it might also be that and this is my complete conjecture, so don't really take this seriously at all, but maybe the state of a dark soul is like what happens to souls if they're like spent and consumed by the fire. But yeah, I really don't know what to make of that, and that's something I'll need to dig into much more deeply myself. Thrall's hood is for prisoners, you think? Bit of a Robin Hood character, yeah. Am I going to do Elden Ring when it releases? I don't know about when it releases, because I do like to play the games blindly and slowly for a lot of reasons, but maybe a little bit after it's released, or if I play it through and I beat it, and I might start streaming it after that. But depending if like the community grows, I might do it live. But yeah, we're a little bit of ways out for that, so I'll just have to think of it as we go. Do you think the dark is the fuel? Yeah, it's possible. I don't know. It's just kind of interesting to think of. Dark is the next stage after the fire fades away. Dark is the true nature of man, as the pygmies inherited the dark soul after the Age of Dragons. It's a bit hard to say just because,
Then shall we begin?
Maybe I won't do this one.
Bearer of the dark sign, let your true strength shine. Be safe, champion.
So, one of the other things that I did want to talk about, oh man, there's just so many small threads, it's kind of hard to keep everything straight. So, I apologize, I think it was Alex that pointed it out, that looks like there's roots growing out of them, which is a really cool detail. And I think that's even true in like the angels in not like the Ring City, but like the Dreg Heap. Like, I think some of them came out of the Pilgrims, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong about that. But yeah, that definitely does seem to be the case. And one small detail that I saw, which is interesting, is like, obviously like the shells are chained to their backs, and this will become relevant much later. But I've wondered if these chains are related to the prisoner's chain item kind of thing that is related to like Champion Gunder later on. I remember looking at the Japanese translation for it, and it sounded like Champion Gunder was bound or made like a prisoner somewhere at some point, and that was potentially why he missed like the bell ringing and being too late for his stuff in the Untended Graves. But I'll double check that when we actually get to that portion. I just kind of wanted to bring it up now because it reminded me of it. So sorry for just kind of like teasing that information and not being able to follow up with it so well for right now. So yeah, after 5 times we'll be hollow. Part of the reason I'm not leveling up now is because you can level up for free, so it's kind of better to just save, like use the levels when you're at a higher level so you get more soul value out of them, I suppose, is the way I want to phrase that. Wender says, souls in general are a fuel in your opinions, hence why in Dark Souls 2 you're told to seek souls to become a worthy monarch and linker. Yeah, I think that's true as well. Oh, and thank you for bringing that up, because that also ties into what I wanted to talk about with Yol, is that when we first encountered him, he was literally like on the verge of death, and I mean, it's a little bit weird because that seems what pilgrims want to an extent. They want to die, and so he thanks us for allowing him to die. But as soon as he comes into contact with the Ashen One, he finds a newfound purpose in life, and because of that, he gains more vigor and more vitality. It gives him a reason to live. So that's a really big thing in like all of the Dark Souls games, that as long as you have a reason to live, you can kind of stave off madness and all of that stuff. Thank you for bringing that up, Wonders. So we can use this lever to open the gate again. And I do like the Undead settlement. I mean, it is kind of small, but I don't know. I just like a lot of the enemy designs here, as well as like the kind of layout of it overall. So, Patrick Lay, welcome to the stream. You say, there's a theory that you don't gain humanity to avoid hollowing, but rather you offload your curse onto humanity to unhollow. That's an interesting perspective I haven't thought of. And it does make sense because it's kind of like how purifying stones work. Like, humans can't avoid curses for whatever reason, so instead they offload their curse onto the stones, which were likely human at one point. So the possibility that humanity could be offered in the same capacity is an interesting perspective, for sure. Some workers' gloves, which just kind of shows the kind of state that we're in. So as we get into the settlement, we see that there are a lot more... Damn it. Maybe I should remove those now. It won't matter. We see that there's like a lot of more hanged corpses, sky burial type situations going on. It also looks like there's wheels, so these people were probably tortured to some extent. I don't exactly know why they would want to do that. It is kind of puzzling. Somebody who knows better probably could explain the rationale behind, like, maybe Sullivan wanting to do those things, but I just don't know. Okay, let me go back to chat and try to catch up for a little bit. At least in Dark Souls 1, the Dark Soul humanity is used as fuel for the fire. We spend humanity to reverse hollowing as well as the kindling process. Manus also has parts of his body that look like tree parts. Yes, so there does seem to be a connection between humans and the trees. And there is also a more broader connection between humans and dragons, since humans can turn into them to some degree. And we'll talk about that a bit more later. So perhaps their chain merely holds the shell on the back as if they were toning during their pilgrimage. And yeah, so them being chained to their, like, purifying stones or whatever they are, and being pilgrims, it does show that they are kind of bound to the system, and so they're seeking solace in death, and that pilgrimage to the Holy Land is supposed to liberate them. So that aspect of the religion in Dark Souls is kind of interesting, because, I mean, obviously we have, like, a more meta perspective, in that, like, death is essentially being released from going hollow and becoming a hollow, so that might be why they try to do it. And so, yeah, it's just kind of interesting to think about. And then Yol dies once you enter the catacombs. Okay, thank you. So I'll do that before then. You should check what causes Yol to die if you want to meet Yuria. You can't get too far. Yeah, I know I can't go too far. I wasn't planning to go past the Yuria stuff because I know all of that gets super connected. So thank you guys for looking out. Effervescent Soliloquy, nice username. Nice to see you join the stream. You said, if you want to do Yol's questline and cure the Dark Sigil, it's best doing it early at low levels because the cure... Yeah. Wood is also a method used to offload the curse, as we see with the Great Wood. Yeah, okay, thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, and as Wender says, multiple things do serve as vessels for curses. And... these can turn to stones. Oh yeah, they can petrify. Then there's the giants. So some people have wondered whether the giant from Dark Souls 2 is what becomes the rotted greatwood, cursed rotted wood. I can't say it. Y'all know what I'm talking about. The tree boss in this area. So I really do like how even though, like, a lot of their stuff is cryptic, like, there is a lot of, like, internal logic to it. And that's really hard to pull off in a lot of games. And sure, like, a lot of things do remain unexplained, but sure, there might also be just, like, the fact that they just did place enemies where they thought they'd be cool and didn't really think too much of it beyond that. But I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, because even if there wasn't a lot of foresight put into it, it doesn't mean that like us as fans in the community can't draw meaning from it, and that's a pretty big difference. So before I forget, we're going to finish off Yoel's questline. And so these things are also really cool. They're kind of like prisons with like a bunch of bodies in them, and then they'll become animated later on and some will become enemies, which is kind of cool to think about, just because it's like, how do an amalgamation of corpses function as one kind of individual? That's something that just kind of always has fascinated me in this game, and it does remind me of like the Wandering Madnesses in Bloodborne. And so it does seem like in some aspects there is a greater to the whole through the sum of its parts. Let me look at chat before I deal with all of these people over here. The people on wheels are a reference to the Berserk manga. Well, the wheel was used as a form of torture in like medieval times. I think it's even like mentioned biblically, and that's where like we get a lot of the terms of like breaking the wheel comes from, if I remember correctly. Although I don't know too much more beyond that, unfortunately. Souls seem to keep you from going hollow by giving you a will or a purpose, much the same way that blood echoes do or the wills of the dead, if you're remembering that correctly. Yeah, so there are a lot of parallels between the games. So thank you for bringing that up, Tanner Posberg, and welcome to the stream. Legend says Serpentmen and the dragon transformation are two links between humans and dragons you can think of. And then, yeah, Wenders also mentions that in Dark Souls 2, the dragon scale mentions that the dragons are related to the Abyss. And so since humans are related to the Abyss as well as like humanity, there is that kind of larger parallel between them as well. His true name is Thick Tree Boy. Okay. So we get Loretta's Bone, which is pertinent to completing Grey Rat's questline right here. I think I could probably kill these guys with the old Call of Duty strat. I didn't need to do that by any means, but it just felt so damn cool to do it. So these guys seem to be like praying to this priestess who's possibly reciting from that holy book behind her. And then she says she'll cleanse the bastard's curse, and then she'll like go on fire, try to grab us, which is super cool. And I should probably try to play a bit better. And then she uses dark magic right there, which is super cool. Right now I'm just trying to get a decent look at one of her grabs or something like that. Oh no, it wasn't even what I was trying to do. Huh. Okay, that was just a little bit bad on my part. So yeah, I'll get used to the HUD as we go. It's just a little bit of the growing pains. So Embargo Venom says, you wonder if the bastard is someone specific, Lothric maybe? I'm not entirely sure, and that's like one of the things that's kind of always been a bit strange to me, is like justifying how just like the random enemies will always seem to attack like the chosen undead or like the protagonist of each game, like the hollow that we are, or the chosen undead in 1 versus the ashen one in 3. So like they don't attack each other and that's kind of always been a bit strange. It might be because we smell different, and that's something that's brought up a lot in these games. Oh, okay, yeah, that just doesn't heal much. Okay, so... Bree says, maybe the Deacons of the Deep, agents of Pontiff, and these priests as well are trying to cleanse Gwyn's curse and bring about dark. Yeah, I don't really know what to make of all that. I don't think like anything you said is necessarily wrong, like I just don't really know myself. Like, Sullivan's perspective, or like, role in this area is weird just because, he does seem to be going after fire, but it might be more related to the profaned flame, and so that's like putting a burning ambition into him. But how much he wants actual dark is a bit weird to me. So these guys pretty much all have like farming equipment for the most part. And one thing that I do like about like Dark Souls 3 is it's a little bit easier to like get all of their equipment from these enemies. So these ladies will like drop their mace, if I remember. Oh, she stepped on me. I already got the corpse, Don John. And so one of the cool things about like dark style attacks is that they do chase players, because like the darkness has a will of its own and it pursues other wills of its own. But we do get some of its set, the Evangelist gloves, and I'll take a look at that in just a minute. Get another Estus shard, which is always fantastic. Solo and unknown travel. Going back to chat. Embargo says the enemies attack us because most of them are hollow and they sense our souls. That's true, but you could also get some of the souls from the other hollow, so it's just a little bit strange that there isn't a little bit more like interfactional conflict, I think. You think the Evangelist could try to bring to people to the Cathedral of the Deep, hence the graves and carriages throughout the road to sacrifice? Yeah, that's something that I've heard brought up pretty often, that like I guess Pontiff Sullivan or the Cathedral of the Deep had more of a role in like putting the corpses in the Great Wood to begin with, so that'll be something we should pay more attention to as well. So Venom says, and some of them are just protecting their territory and such. Oh, okay, so some are hollow and they're just protecting their territory. Okay. And Patrick says, to me, one of the broad themes of the Soulsborne thing is that the world is facing a crisis where the bonds of society have at least partly broken down, and so people fight. Yeah, and I think that's another interesting point to like bring up. We do get kind of put in, maybe not quite like a post-apocalyptic, but something like quite on the brink of that in each of these games. Sekiro, a little bit less so, but more like country related. I don't know a better term for that off the top of my head. Apparently, Evangelist and Guinevere share the same voice actress. Okay. So, going to the gloves. These are gloves of an evangelist sent from the cathedral. These teachers, all women, came to enlighten inhabitants of the undead settlement and sent carriers on the path of sacrifice. Wow, it's just really difficult to read today for some reason. Let me get a little bit of water right quick. Gloves worn by inhabitants of the undead settlement. Official attire for the dissection and burial of the undead. Naturally, the ceremonial significance of such work is long forgotten. Indeed, no one could continue to entertain such horrors. So yeah, that's actually a really cool detail. So it seems like all of these workers here are related to like all the corpses here, which I suppose should be just kind of like taken as a matter of course. And so we did find this evangelist at the base of this tree that's lined with a bunch of corpses hanging from it. I think I'll need to pull out an arrow to shoot that down. And the tree is on fire. So one of the things that interests me in like Bloodborne and Sekiro and Dark Souls is this idea of like impurity is really ingrained into a lot of these games, but there really doesn't seem to be a lot of ways to cleanse the impurities, which is a bit weird to me. So it seems like for Dark Souls at least, fire is related to that, so that could just set off like some of the differences between like the light and the dark, and fire being a tool of cleansing the dark. And so you could argue that yeah, maybe the first flame is what consumes humanity and not the other way around, although maybe by feeding humanity to the first flame it also weakens it because fire is finite to begin with. So yeah, it's kind of interesting stuff to think about. Look at the evangelist's face, you will not be disappointed. The ragdoll. It's pretty much just got a mask on, if I remember correctly. Kind of reminds me of like the Tumerian Watchers. We'll find some more of these if it doesn't work. Yeah. She does not want to go to the dance with me. Oh, damn it. Alright, well maybe we'll get lucky on the next one. Are they burning bodies? Yeah, it seems that way. So like looking up at these like corpses real close, we got like the body bags. They almost look like straight up like lifted from Bloodborne. That I look closely, like you can find like a lot of these kind of corpses in Hemwick Charnel Lane in the Witch's Abode. Go ahead and equip a bow. I think I can still use it, just not effectively. We get some kukris. There's some throwing knives. So I totally didn't even realize that like this was a path through the undead settlement my first playthrough. Like I just completely went into that other house. Completely missed this. So this is more like a straight shot to the rotted Greatwood, if I remember correctly, and I don't exactly remember what's back over there. I know you can go down like through the sewers and stuff. I suppose this might be like the somewhat more canon way to go? I don't know. So just because I haven't gone this way first, I'm gonna go ahead and do it. If I remember correctly, we get inked over here. Did not turn around like I thought. Too much ganking. We picked up that Thrall hood, make us match Grey Rat. Can I please show legal proof that I'm the last protagonist ever? So it's more like others are gonna have to prove that they're gonna have to outlive me. Let's just go with that. More homeward bones and a nice little message. Time for secret. And so these NPCs are kind of cool. Show those off pretty shortly. Don't remember if there's like another treasure involved with like roofs. Don't think there was. Could be wrong. Probably wrong. Oh, it's down there, isn't it? So, is it this guy that if he kills you, he abducts you to someplace? Oh, I don't remember. But yeah, he's got like this cage on his back, and he can abduct the player. I don't exactly remember how to initiate it off the top of my head. I'm just gonna try to ignore him for now, which is probably a bad idea. And then deal with this. Oh yeah, I forgot how beastly these dudes kind of are. And you can't, like, full-on backstab them. Oh, I think I'm poisoned. It's not that big deal. There's always been a mechanical disconnect between player and NPC on how the Curse of the Undead works. Mechanically, we respawn at bonfires, but in the lore you come back to life when you died. Where you died. Maybe burning bodies to try and stop the cycle of the undead? Maybe. The undead curse works as the writers see fit. You're not entirely wrong. Paula is known to protect humanity from stories that we see in the Spirit Tree Shield, even turning herself into a shield to protect a child. Perfect garb. I figured it takes him a minute to patrol over here. This feels really similar to the rotted cursewood tree consuming the curses of the villagers. The rotted cursewood also transposes into a hollow greatsword, which further connects it to Dark Souls 2. Talk to the guy in the cage around the corner. Oh yeah, I gotta talk to him. Okay. Then go up to the back of the guy's cage and you can interact. Okay, thank you for clarifying for me. Ooh, that was lucky. Sniped. Try to get my souls back. Oh, dude. Dark influence and Halloween process can turn you into a tree. You don't think that's required? He seems to be unaggressive until attacked. See how the Great Hollow is named Great Hollow, even though it's probably not a hollow to begin with, but it follows the idea. Oh, he is passive until attacked. The grandson carries a cage. So that's meant as a hollow tree, so unless that's the same word in Japanese as a hollow, I don't think there's a connection. Yeah, so that's one of those things that I do like to look up just to see if there is a relation like that, or if it's just kind of an unintended product of localization that works maybe better just to kind of tie things together. I don't really know how the tree is referred to as a hollow, at least in this game, but yeah. This guy, I believe he has the Flamberge, which is one of the very few thralls that drop it. I think there's like 2 in this area, and I thought I was going to get it just with my luck, because my first time when I was going through, I was trying to like pick up every weapon. I literally farmed some of these thralls for hours trying to get that rare drop, and it was just so terrible of an experience. You get the Caduceus round shield. Ready? He was the one on the... Let's check out the shield. No. I didn't even remember picking this up. Yeah, so it protects 100% of the physical damage, and I wish I knew that. Okay. Actually, let's just go ahead and read that, now that I think about it. As well as some of the other equipment that I haven't gotten to so far. So, going back to chat real quick, we see... the painted world is an inverse of our world. Instead of wood being the savior and the end of the world, it's fire. Wood is the logical end to everything, and the Age of Fire is constantly burning it away. Don't attack the cage-carrying dude. Oops, too late. Feels like a lot of things can be lost in translation. Yeah, that's why you enjoy my videos. Thank you. You think it simply refers to the hollow of a tree. You believe it's called the rotted cursewood, not hollowwood. That's probably accurate. Here's rotted greatwood. Okay, so going back to the Mailbreaker, I'm not really going to read the skills so much, just because that's not really flavor text. So, this is a small sword made for thrusting attacks. This hard edgeless sword can pierce through tough armor and boast a deadly critical attack. Pretty straightforward. A balanced, widely used standard straight sword. Inflicts reliable standard damage as well as high thrust damage. So that does set up, like, there are different types of damage in this game, which is always kind of interesting to learn about. A straight sword with a broad blade designed for slashing. A large sweeping attack makes this effective against crowds, but is prone to deflection from walls and narrow spaces. A straight sword with a broken blade. A weapon with no exceptional qualities. Only a Mad Hollow would choose to fight with this. And I do like in Dark Souls 1 you could transpose these into like the Artorias' great sword. So the rapier. A lightweight thrusting sword used in noble duels employing refined techniques. The primary attack of a thrusting sword is a series of stabs that render foes vulnerable for a devastating final thrust, and also attack with shield up. So the battle axe is easily wielded axe crafted for battle and inflicting standard damage. Its weight can be used to inflict high damage, but must be used carefully as it leaves its wielder open to retaliation. Lucerne. A polearm with a sharp, hard pronged head that inflicts thrust attacks. The Lucerne is wielded overhand like a hammer, or can be swung from the side to break through shields. And then the Winged Knight Halberd. Halberd wielded by the winged knights who swore themselves to the angels. The thick, heavy, blood-stained blade can only be swung by one with inhuman strength. So this is a pretty cool tidbit here, that this does tie the winged knight to the angels. Obviously, we're not going to know who they are so early in the game, but something to look forward to. And if I look at the bodies in the settlements, which have become half-trees, you'll see that they're the same position as the Great Hollow, which may indicate that maybe they were hollow. Okay, that's an interesting perspective. This is the way to go forward. Before we do that, we can look down below and see there's like that little crevice down there. And then that way will lead to the tree over there. Remember? Yeah. I did remember. It looks like this dude's almost got like embers in it. Okay, refer to that. This is actually like a hollow. He's moving. Oh. Gotta get rid of that. We get the fire clutch ring, which we can actually equip. Increases fire attack but compromises damage absorption. So this is a ring depicting a hand grasping a redstone. Increases fire attack but compromises damage absorption. An old fable in Londor claims that the lure of the clutch ring reaches out to the crestfallen who might otherwise become overcome by despair. I don't really need to be taking more damage right now, and I don't really deal a lot of fire damage or anything like that, so over there. I think to go over there we need to fall down here. Oh, not like that though. Do we have any deeper lore on the prevalence of mimics throughout the world? Generally, no. They are related to the gods, like one of the, I think it's like the idol of avarice or whatever it's supposed to be called, points out that the mimics were cursed gods and they were cursed because of their greed. Whether or not they were cursed by like Gwyn or something else, I'm not completely familiar. I think you can see trees as sort of parasites in FromSoft games, sucking the life energy, like the old one in Dark Demon Souls and the Dark Sign Drain Souls, and you think it fits with the idea that hollowing caused by the dark includes a return to tree moment. Yeah, that's an interesting way to think of it, because like you see how much like the roots spread everywhere. People generally wouldn't call like trees to be parasites, but like if people are like really into like gardening, there are like a lot of invasive things related to trees that are not necessarily obvious unless you're like kind of into it. And even like in Sekiro, the divine dragon is kind of related to that idea of like trees and sucking the life out of the land, and even like sucking the life out of the NPCs if you inflict them with dragon rot. I just remembered that I actually have a decent shield, so I should use it more now that I have it. Like, I don't need to be as aggressive. Not that I'm like super aggressive or playing super well, but Link shield. Super useful. I can talk to this? I don't remember.
Another Nana disappeared. Sir Granton carries a cage.
Oh, okay.
He ever has his cage. And Nana's never coming back. So come into the cage and become Nana's shade.
Oh, so this is the
Another
dude.
Nana disappeared. Sir Granton carries a cage. He ever has his cage. And Nana's never coming back. So come into the cage and...
Okay, okay. Interesting. Now you can just climb into the back. I honestly don't even remember what this does. I just remember it being a thing. Oh, okay, yeah, I remember now. So this is how we access the mound makers. I mean, I obviously feel like a little bit silly saying that at this point, but I definitely would not have found that on my... Well, I didn't find it on my first playthrough. I kind of skipped going through that first area of the Undead settlement. So yeah, this is one of the ways that we can get to a Covenant, PvP one at that. And then, if I remember correctly, I'm just not going to say his name because I forgot. Don't want to misattribute who he is. So yeah, he's got a cool set. And the Mound Makers is like one of the coolest areas, and it's just a bit of a shame that like it doesn't really connect into anything else. And I'm sure someone in the comments is gonna be like, "Oh, the dark or the cut content was gonna be this. It was gonna be awesome," and then everyone just gets a little bit sad.
Well, what's up? This pit is for hollows, not for the likes of you sane folk. Or perhaps you are a hollow, posing as otherwise? Oh, yes, yes, then we are just fine. It's important to know who you are, but we'll all be mad soon enough. And should you be undead, well, all the more so. Beware, the shackles of the gods are fragile. You might need this. Etch it on your heart if you feel your sanity slipping.
So this makes us join the Mound Makers Covenant. And that's a really interesting line that the shackle of the gods will help keep them sane, help them remember. I'll have to think about that a bit more. I know a lot of people like try to look at the symbol on the vertebra, and so that concept of like the curse potentially being related to vertebra makes me wonder if that's true or if it's just something that like these people believe. It seems a little bit far-fetched to me that the gods literally place this on the vertebrae of humans, but who really knows for sure in a game like this? Let's go back to the chat real quick. Justin says that he thinks that trees are like the end result of life. Almost every single thing eventually becomes a tree. Complete opposite of fire, which is constantly burning down the world. Yeah, and that's something I've thought of as well. Like, once the fire does fade, like presumably the only thing left in the world would be like the arc trees and potentially like dragons or humans, creatures of the dark. But at that point, they probably won't be dark anymore, just because fire is what creates the disparity. And so I've wondered whether or not like if the abyss is just kind of like the bed of a lake and the darkness would be the water of it. And so with fire being there, like fire is what creates water, and air, which would be fire, I guess, in this poor metaphor right here. So if fire creates both light and dark, so the dark might be cast upon the abyss as a property of fire creating light. And so dark might not be inherent within the abyss, but it's just kind of where it resides. And so once the fire is around, the abyss becomes associated with dark. Sorry, I'm rambling and just kind of repeating myself. I'm just trying to articulate it in a way that I think is a bit clear, because it's kind of hard to parse, I think, at times. So in Dark Souls 1, hollows are just non-speaking madness, but the idea of a hollow seems more complicated in Dark Souls 3. Yeah, I think so. And Justin says, you mean the world of Ariandel is all about rot infecting the world and wanting to burn it away, a complete opposite of the outer world where constant burning has led to a heap of worlds. A hollow needs not be mad.
Come here to pile up your victims, for that will form your anchor. You'll see when you go mad. They'll be your family.
I think I did look at some of his lines in Japanese, and it was kind of interesting, and I thought I had like some more concrete thoughts about that. Like, maybe the idea is like when you kill people, they'll become your family because you've absorbed their souls, maybe? I don't think that's what it was, but that's just kind of like one of the things. So like the more people you kill, presumably the more souls you would get, and that would help keep you sane a bit more, but who really knows? This guy is kind of half mad himself.
You'll go mad one day, but not today. Take my advice. Use this bone and leave this place. This pit is for hollows, and for the occasional madman fond of piling up victims. You've better things to do, I'd hope.
I think that's it.
This pit is for hollows, and for the occasional madman fond. You've better...
So this is where you would like level up the Covenants, and we can see there's just a pile of skulls here. Invertebrae. And almost just like idols, like statues or something. I don't think there's anything else up there, but you know, just trying to get some cool footage right now. Okay. So we can offer vertebrae shackles to this, but we don't have any, so I'm not going to worry about that right now. Let's go ahead and double check that item we just got. So a malformed vertebra found by the Mad with a queer symbol on its inside, proof of the shackles of the gods. Equipped to pledge oneself to the Mound Maker's covenant. The Mound Makers wish only to add to their mounds, becoming mad spirits whether summoned as cooperators or invaders. They are blithe to those around them, for in their minds any kill might lead to another shackle. So one of the cool things about the Mound Makers, this idea of like following in their like obsession is important to keeping their sanity, and in many ways I think that's kind of relatable to like the League in Bloodborne. And one of the weird things about like Valter is compared to like Gascoigne, he's really embraced the hunt, whereas Gascoigne did as well, but for some reason Gascoigne went mad, whereas Valter seemed perfectly fine. Maybe the difference is Gascoigne was trying to hold on to his humanity a bit because the music box does remind him of his family, whereas Valter may have given up all of that except for the League. It's a bit weird, but just within like the FromSoft games in general, like going in with complete abandon and really like pursuing a goal seems to protect people from some more of the grotesque monstrosities or consequences of those actions. It's a bit weird, and that whole idea of like madness is often imperceptible from like enlightenment is a really like Buddhist way of thinking. And there's many stories of like fools outwitting like wise men and like priests and things like that because they're like more of the land and more living naturally within their element. and they're not so caught in their own heads at times. So it's kind of an interesting parallel, I think. So forgive my rambling. Going back to chat. Honestly, Dark Souls 3 feels like a mess of unfinished ideas, like the angels, butterflies, the deep, the profane flame. There's a lot of concepts at you without developing them. Yeah, I think that's true, and that's part of the reasons why I really want them to take their time with a game like Elden Ring, just because as good as Dark Souls 3, it could have been better, you know? And same is true of like Bloodborne, and definitely of Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 1. No pressure on FromSoft. I guess. Just take your time and get what you want actually out of the door. Wonder says he thinks the profane flame can be explained with how sin works in Dark Souls. Deep in his opinion is developed enough and can be tied with other FromSoft games. Director LP behind the camera. Walter also had purpose to crush vermin and cleanse the world. Maybe that's what kept him sane. Yeah. Also, Gascoigne is a massive man of faith, whereas you don't think Walter was. There's the idea that more faith can lead to worse transformations. Yeah, that's an interesting point as well. I have to think about that a bit more myself. Wender says he thinks the Mound Makers see death in high regard. That's why Hodrick says that your victims will be your family. They also use Warmth, Dark Souls 2 spell from the Undead Crypt, which the followers of Death and Nido. Yeah, and so that idea of family is really important to humans, it seems. It does come up in a few places like Warmth, and that idea of home, like with the homeward bones and people's attachments to bonfires, like their family is the flame to a certain extent, and like that kind of closeness and warmth of affection is what ties people together a bit. So yeah. Thank you for bringing that up in the context of families, because like that's something I do think about in relation to this. It's just kind of hard to always remember what information to bring up when we look at descriptions like this. So thank you again, Wonders. Lavo says you can't help but see parallels between Vermin and the Centipedes in Sekiro. Yeah, I'll bring that up too, and that's something I want to explore in a future video also. Red, welcome back to the stream. I know you've been here for a bit. You said that the Deep and the Profane Flame are as developed as they need to be. People just want to fight Cthulhu and miss the point of what the game is trying to say. The Angelic Faith and the Pilgrims are underdeveloped though, for sure. You'd like for them to have some more meat on their bones. Okay. And then Devin, welcome back. I know you've been in here for a while. Sorry if I've missed what you've been saying. Repressed clerics get good and asymmetrical when they finally do give in and transform. Justin says, angels are pretty fleshed out. Pilgrims of Londar go on pilgrimage to lands steeped in the abyss in order to achieve a new form. Dark Souls 2 is the start where we go on expeditions in the abyss. Okay, that's an interesting way of thinking about it. I don't know if that's true. I mean, I definitely like it. That's a super cool thought, but Is Lothric itself touched by the abyss, like up where we do find them, or are they just on the way to go there? I know that we'll find like the pilgrim butterflies later on, and so that could tie into I should probably go back to the Firelink Shrine. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought, so I'm gonna move on. Lava says you'd have loved to have a reason for the profane flame to exist rather than it appeared one day. Also, was it really just a flame in a bowl in the end? We'll talk more about the profaned flame when we get to it. So, oh, I was already there. Okay. When we look at the profane flame, it's more like the flame of sin in Japanese, which does get more relevant when we consider like if life is a sin and all that. The description where it says it was like born out of the sky, like that was always a bit mystifying to me in English. Like I was like, is this thing like a meteor or did it just appear? It more like sounds like it was conjured out of thin air, so it's probably born out of like an amalgamation of like human emotions of some sort, and it's related to the oracles in the area because they're also cursed. So we'll get into that a bit more later. Like I don't have like super strong thoughts about it, but
and in one piece.
It does make sense, but it also doesn't.
Now it's time I do my part.
Oh yeah, I need to zoom in when I give him his bone.
Goodbye. Oh, this place.
So one of the other things that ties into that with the profane flame and sin, let me think, is maybe it could be like what happens to the Chaos Flame after it's finally like settled down. Maybe it was related to like the Witch of Izalith and all of that kind of stuff, and it's just taken thousands and thousands of years to finally stabilize and not be so chaotic. I don't exactly know how true that is, but I think there are some parallels there, and we'll talk about that for sure later.
Oh, hello, you're back. And in one piece. Well, now it's time I do my part, huh?
Heavens, she was already dead. Thank you. I'm not surprised, though. Almost a relief, really. You can keep the ring as, well, a little trinket of thanks, I suppose. You can keep the ring as...
So yeah, Giacomo Rinaldi, welcome to the stream. I don't believe I've seen you yet, so welcome. You say that the profane flame is connected to the abyss. Andre sees the abyss in the profane coal. And yeah, that's also why I think it might be related to like the chaos flame of like Dark Souls 1 or something more related to man, especially since it doesn't seem to waver. So that is also one of the other real mysteries of Dark Souls 3 and like the profane flame in general is maybe they weren't able to walk away from the flame so much, and maybe the profane flame could be something that they used to sustain themselves, and there was no way to manifest it in the original Dark Souls 1. And so yeah, it's definitely something to muse upon more. So Red says the profane flame is juxtaposed to the chaos flame, since the chaos flame is undying while the chaos flame burns away in the blink of an eye. I think you yeah, probably had one of those mixed up. Profane flame is undying, whereas the chaos one burns away in the blink of an eye. Okay. I don't remember which is cooler, the Bastard Sword or the Great Sword. What? Oh, the Bastard Sword is a Great Sword, duh. Wait, I only have 656 souls. Did I not pick them up?
Goodbye. And stay safe.
Oh, no, I didn't, because yeah, okay. That was my fault. Because I died in the other spot. So like how the bed of chaos is engulfed by the chaos flame. Okay, yeah, actually that reminds me, going back to this whole idea of like trees and wood and things like that. It took me a really long time to like think about it because, I don't know, sometimes when you look at a different language, you just don't think about it in the context of that language. You're just like, oh, ember is ember, or like, that's what it means. I mean, obviously. So when you look at terms like ember in Japanese, like the basic root of the word, the kanji that it comes from is like fire seed or seed fire, and this idea of seeds or beds of life being related to fire is a bit more prevalent within the language itself. And so like the bed of chaos is called like a naedoko, and that's kind of like a gardening term for like keeping like a flower in a pot to keep it away from like bugs and vermin or things that could kill the plant. And so there is just like a lot of those smaller parallels that we don't quite have access to in English. So that ties the idea of the flame a bit more strongly to trees and things like that. Did want to bring that up, and that just kind of reminded me of it right there. Don't see my souls. Weird. Okay. Okay. So Jeremiah's back. Welcome back. So Red says both the Profane Flame and the Chaos Flame were created by witches in an underground city, and both flames turn people into monsters and have a connection to humanity. Yeah. So there are a lot of parallels between them, and so I do wonder if there's a potential that the Profane Flame is directly related to the Chaos Flame, but just a bit more of a stable version of it after so many hundreds or thousands of years of it burning. So this is the next NPC we can find. I intended. I'm doing it like this just so I can quickly use the binoculars once we get done initiating. Man, binoculars in this one are so annoying to me after using the monocular from Bloodborne so often. Okay, so this should be good enough.
Aha, unkindled, are we? Welcome to my abode. I am Cornix, an old pyromancer. A crow in his cage, as you see now. But here we are, an encounter for the ages. I hear the unkindled make for fine vessels. Care to learn some pyromancies from this old man?
So, obviously we can say yes, and that's what we're gonna do.
Most wise. A chance encounter should not be squandered. To reiterate, I am Cornix of the Great Swamp. The pleasure is mine.
That's that. Going back to chat, you guys are saying some cool stuff. You said that it could be that the Profane Flame is a byproduct of the nearby royal sorcerers meddling with the life-pursuing properties of the dark, Homing Soul Mask description makes the point that the attraction to life forms and the spells is typically a trait of the dark arts. Yes, and that's also part of the nature of the soul. So when we do look at like a lot of the crystal magic, between like the experiments that Seath was doing, he was looking into the nature of the soul, which drove him mad. Same thing that happened to Logan. It gets repeated in Dark Souls 2. And obviously there's parts of the soul which are related to humanity. And so it's interesting that like at the root of both like pyromancy and like hexes, it comes back to life as well as like in chaos magic. So they're all kind of related to the same fundamental principle, which seems to be like the souls and life itself. And so with the profane flame potentially being a sentient or life form of its own, I guess for lack of a better term, it seems to seek other forms of life, just as like the Pursuer's spell, or I think it's called Affinity in Dark Souls 3. And we'll talk about that a bit more once we do get the Pursuers as well. So yeah, that's just something that does seem to be inherent within humanity, or just like dark life in general in these games. Don't really feel like dealing with the Jarhead there. Like all these crestfallen hollows. I think there's a patrolling evangelist and a couple of guys. They might have already done their rounds though. I thought there's some treasure somewhere. Yeah. So yeah, we hear the thrall coming for us, and he gets that sneak attack off. Very, very devious. So this is like a dev note over here, if I remember correctly. It says a transposing kiln lies within the belly. And I guess I should have talked to Lidleth to get him to give us that dialogue about it. So great curse-ridden tree ahead. So that's a hint that like there's going to be a boss over here, obviously. The first time I went through this area, I came through, I guess, the back way. So I was so confused. I was like, oh shit, great curse-ridden tree ahead, other than like, I don't know, I just didn't put together that the boss that I killed was what this was talking about. Oh, okay. That was not open from this side. So that explains a lot anyway. So, yeah, the curse-laden tree is kind of an optional boss. But he's not really one you want to skip just because you want to get the kiln that's inside. I'm just going to go ahead with this area for now. And then if I die or I go back to Firelink. Alright, let me say that. If I die, I'll probably go back around the other way. Or I'll just go back to a Firelink once I get through this quick area over here. Not sure which way I want to go. So we're going to come down into the sewers and find more rats. And then once I get rid of these, I'll look back at chat. Cestus. It's locked. Try locking on. Doesn't help too much with the head off, but yeah, there's the multiple rats. One of the interesting things to me about the rats is that they do attack with their arms at times. I don't really know how common that would be in like real life. We just got another ring. And so this opens up like a little bit of a shortcut that I'm not too worried about right now. I think that's it for now. And then later on we can go and unlock these doors to get to the statue of Velka, if I remember correctly. So going back to chat. Knowing this game is AI, that Evangelist probably fell off the bridge and into the catacombs. Maybe. Evangelists all have ladybeards. You do believe the reason why the apostles are in the village is due to the townspeople worshipping the Great Wood, which might be heretical towards Lothric's religion? Maybe. I don't know. Jeremiah says, is the Great Wood like the purging stones in how the curse has been transferred from one to the other? It makes me wonder if the tree is made up of dead hollows and have slowly turned to trees, for example. I think they just actually had a tree, or maybe if the thing about like it being the giant from Dark Souls 2 is true, they just started piling corpses into that tree. They could have just started piling up corpses into the giant's corpse, and they just kind of congealed, and the curses didn't really end up going anywhere, which is kind of why it becomes like the boss that it is, I think. So Lavo says, we also know that they carried people through the road of sacrifices to feed Aldrich in the Cathedral of the Deep. And yes, that's a really good point. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay. For some reason I thought we were further back. This will be fine. Okay, so there's the evangelist that I was talking about. Oh, this is... Yeah, the Great Wood even has Artor's spear inside his soul, and he was the one dude who invented purging stones, or at least popularized them. Interesting. Oh yeah, the Duke, Earl of Artor, whatever. It's a not... It got... Then... As I get got again. Oh. I didn't know his friend got aggro. That's not cool. Oh. Screw you guys. This is the most OP strat available, just run. There's a third one. And I forgot to look at the ring that the rat gave me. I'm gonna probably just go to the next bonfire and then circle back around. Maybe talk to him after the Great Wood Tree. So now we can also see Sigurd being an idiot.
Oh. Pardon me, I was absorbed in thought. I am Siegwart of Katarina. To be honest, I'm in a bit of a pickle. Have you ever walked near a white birch only to be struck by a great arrow? Well, if I'm not mistaken, they come from this tower. Whoever it is, I'm sure I can talk some sense into them. But I have to find a way up, and that's just the trouble. This lift only goes down, you see, and... Well, that doesn't get me anywhere.
You kind of can see his face a little bit, I guess, which is kind of funny. A little bit hard to look through. Yeah, you can see him a little bit. Gotta press it the other way.
This lift only goes down. But you know, with a little warming up, eventually... No. I've got to use my head and think.
So yeah, this is a pretty trivial puzzle. I mean, you just step on it and step back out. But I'm just going to try to get to the next bonfire real quick. And hopefully not die to the enemy in the next room. Like Dancer-esque monster. Shouldn't be too bad. I don't really... I think you can just run past it, but yeah, we'll see. And then Red brought up that the original Purging Stones were used in Dark Souls 1 as the Earl of Arstor's treasure. And then they might also be naturally occurring with the kind of clams. I don't remember the term off the top of my head. That you can see in like all the areas I see. Okay, we're gonna go back to the Firelink Shrine real quick, use the souls that we've gotten, and then we're gonna go back through the front portion of what you call it, the settlement. So let me go back. They're also naturally occurring. The man-eater clams drop them as well, probably created from human remains caught in their procreating process. Yeah, I agree with that. So the Purging Stone description also says stuff that could apply to the Great Wood. Humans are helpless against curses and can only redirect their influence. The Purging Stone does not dispel curses, but receives them as a surrogate. The stone itself was once a person or some other being. So yeah, that's also a good possibility with the Great Wood. It is a bit weird to think about what would happen to a Purging Stone if you did actually use it. Is the curse actually dispelled? Or like, what if you discarded it after it had a curse applied to it? I'm not sure.
Heavens, she was already dead.
A new gesture. A sad one.
Heavens, she was already dead.
So I think I need to reload the area to make him talk again a bit properly. I'll try to level up and then save 3,000 souls for Bastard Sword. I don't even really know if it's good. I just want to try something different, I suppose. I don't think he has anything different to say either.
Ooh, yet to give in, eh? Good. The Firekeeper must be twitching with delight. But what do you really know about these Lords of Cinder? These supposed legends? Let's take Aldrich for one. A right and proper cleric. Only he developed a habit of devouring men. He ate so many that he bloated like a drowned pig, then softened into sludge. So they stuck him in the Cathedral of the Deep, and they made him a Lord of Cinder, not for virtue, but for might. such as a lord, I suppose. But here I ask, do we have a sodding chance?
So yeah, his dialogue is really interesting because it's one of the very few things that we can learn about Aldrich, and so one of the questions it raises is, did Aldrich choose to link himself, or was it forced upon him? It's kind of weird the way that it's phrased. I should probably look at the Japanese for that just to see if it has more that can go with that theory, or if it's just something different, I suppose. Yeah.
At the foot of Lothric Castle, an old path still runs below the tower in the Undead settlement. It was used to transport sacrifices to the Cathedral of the Deep. You should see where it leads, if you've the stones for it.
So that's kind of the path where we just went through, I believe. So that does tie into the idea that the settlement has been using people as sacrifices for their religions. And so the Cathedral of the Deep does have a kind of influence over that section of Lothric, if you still want to call it Lothric for, I don't know. So that could have been partially where we get some of that inter-factional divide coming from. Maybe adherents to the Cathedral of the Deep got into a fight with the Knights of Lothric. I mean, I'm sure that there's other lore theorists who've gotten much more developed thoughts about that, but that's just kind of the vibe that I've got going on right now. So if you guys want to support or deny that, feel free to do so. So Lavo says, Miyazaki stated the Unkindleds tried to link the fire but reduced to cinder. The two of the starting classes state that you died of collapsing from exhaustion or collapsed roaming the land. It always seemed weird to you that all Unkindled are supposed to have reached the first flame when they're so damn weak in the first place. Red says it's... Oh, okay, so Red says that's not really an inconsistency, it just means that they're undead who were burned before linking the fire. Interesting. Tanner asks, have you heard the idea that Smo became Aldrich due to his cannibalistic tendencies? Sorry if this message is repeated, my internet died while sending it last time. No, I've not heard that. That's interesting, yeah. I don't think that really works, just because I don't know why they named them differently, but between that and the ages, I don't really know how well that fits up, or how much one should take into account like the chosen undead's actions during Dark Souls 1, but there's certainly a lot of issues on how much time is convoluted and how there's like multiple Ornsteins throughout the series, I suppose. It's not clear to you who precisely is doing the setting up of the resurrecting Lords of Cinder, and when they fail to return to call up the Unkindled. Oh yeah, and somebody mentioned on my last stream that like when the the Ashen One does rise, it happens after a bell, and to me that's important. Like that shows like how much significance bells have throughout the series. So like in Dark Souls 1, you've got the two bells to show like the chosen undead. The question is if it's more like a correlation versus a causation kind of thing, whereas in Dark Souls 3 it almost seems to be like, because the bells ring, it really does create the Ashen One. So why the bell rang then is a bit of a mystery, like the mechanics of how that works, or whether or not the bells really do have some kind of power to announce to the world that like a new champion has been born or something along those lines. So Jeremiah asks, what are my thoughts on the second half of Dark Souls 1? I wish they had more time to flesh things out with like Izalith, or I wish they also allowed us to reach the Lords of Cinder a bit more without having to have the Lord Vessel. That would have been really cool to me. I wish there was also a little bit more with Frampton Koth, which I think most players feel to some degree, but I don't think it's bad. It's interesting for what it is. It just suffers from lack of polish and time to do it, I think. And so Tanner says, the whole idea is from Smo's armor appearing for purchase after defeating Aldrich, so pretty tenuous. Yeah, so it is interesting like what items you can get when, and so that'll be something worth looking into as well. So thank you for bringing that up. And then Justin says, what if the bell is an alarm clock signifying it's time to kindle? It very well could be. Sorry about that. Okay.
At the foot of Lorethrough Castle, an old if.
Welcome home, Ashes. Very well then taken up.
How many do I have? 9,000? Okay, I can make that work.
Farewell, I'd made the...
Let me think about this. I don't really use these too often, so I'm not too worried about it. Red says, Smo ate grinded up bones and wasn't a cleric. Aldrich ate people, presumably whole, and was a cleric. Oh yeah, and the whole idea of Aldrich like consuming people to the point where he himself becomes sludge is really interesting commentary on like that idea of greed. And it gets kind of repeated with what we see in like the Gaping Dragon, and there's like a lot of Japanese games that really like make kind of moral judgments on people based on like how heavy they are, which I mean, if you know a bit about that society, it's pretty messed up, but kind of par for the course. I know that kind of sounds cold, but like there's really a lot of pressure to conform, and yeah, there's a lot of moral judgments cast on those who don't conform very well. So
Ah, there you are. I was thinking. You know I'm a petty thief. Well, perhaps I'll go on the prowl. Everyone's dead or hollowed away anyway, right? So I might as well fetch some weapons or treasure for you. Well, what do you say? Thank you. You will not be disappointed. Grey Rat the Thief was once a well-known name. Until I ended up rotting in a cell.
Patrick says, do I want to talk to Lilith to get him to talk about the kiln? Yes, thank you for reminding me. I would have completely forgotten. Or Grey Rat goes away. Oh yeah, I need to use a couple of the souls.
Grey Rat the Thief was once a well-known name. Until I ended up rotting in a cell. Goodbye. I will leave for some time. So long for now. Do stay safe, you hear? Or my efforts will have been for naught.
Thank you, Amir. I appreciate that very much. You guys don't have to do that stuff, but I do appreciate it for sure. Thank you for the kind comment. You said, love the fact that someone is still making Bloodborne lore videos in 2021. Keep up the great work. Thank you. I appreciate that. And that is the plan. And I will start expanding more into the FromSoft's greater category. Or game log, backlog. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore.
Oh, hello, your hand in one piece. Goodbye, dude.
Let's go ahead and equip this. I really don't know how this one feels in this game. It's not bad. It's actually a lot faster than I thought. Yeah, we could probably make this work. Oh, that roll though. Alright, that's good enough.
What is good? What needs?
Pretty be careful. I don't...
Tana says, Red Scholar, never too late for a crisis of faith, and the munchies can get the best of all of us, but I don't take that theory very seriously, just an observation. Subscribe to your only cannibals for Aldrich 4.
Ah, just what needs.
Like I'm blind. How many? Okay, so we do have enough.
Pretty big. Ah, just what neat.
Should be good for now.
Pretty be careful.
Deal a lot more damage, and then now I might go see Yol to use some of those free levels. Damn it.
Oh, our champion of Ash. Welcome back.
Holy crap. Okay, so this isn't a donation, it's a threat. Keep making Bloodborne videos or costs will lay curse upon you and your children. Thank you again so much, and your children's children forevermore. It's one heck of a threat. Thank you again. And then Justin says, ahem, we all know that Smo is the Dragon Slayer armor after the real Dragon Slayer left Heidi's Tower of Flame. He needs to wake up to keep up the illusion. And then Lavo says, will you make lore videos on the adventure of Cooking Cream, the underrated FromSoft masterpiece? If that catches my attention, sure. I have no idea what you're talking about, though.
Then shall we begin? Bearer of the dark sign, let your true strength shine.
So one level for now. I'm not sure what I should do. Well, maybe health for this low HP run.
As I have said, I was once a sorcerer. Alas, the magic of Londor is a far cry from the wonders of Vinheim. But I can teach you what I know. Perhaps more importantly, I believe that I can help tease out your true strength. We pilgrims of Londor are keenly aware that those branded by the dark sign possess something quite special. As I have said, I was once a
Thank you again,
sorcerer.
Amir. Just kidding, it's
Alas,
fine. I still
the
intend
magic
to
of
produce more
Londor is a
Bloodborne
far
content.
cry
It
from
might
the
take me a
wonders
little bit
of
longer to
Vinheim.
produce it now with me doing the
But
stream
I
as
can
well.
teach
But
you what I know.
there will be more to come, and some of it will be
More
pretty exciting. Some pretty big themes.
I believe that I can
That do
help
tie into more like
tease
Dark Souls
out
type of
your
stuff.
True strength. We pilgrims of Londor are keenly aware that those branded by the dark sign possess something quite
Young
special.
Gwendolyn, nice to see you again. I'm not sure what ending I want to do. I might do multiple. I mean, I probably will now that I think about it. Definitely, just because I want to get more footage. So I'll probably like save scum it right before we get to the endings and just do them as we get to them for sure. So you'll sell some of these sorceries. I'm not too worried about these now. I suppose like once we get towards like the end of the stream, I could read like all their descriptions and then we can muse about those. Justin, thank you for the tenor. You say Cos or some say Cosm, but really those in the know understand it's Cosmo. Thank you for the donation. I appreciate that.
Be safe, champion of Ash.
And then, also, it's nice to see you back to the stream, Yang Wenli. I haven't finished Legends of the Galactic Heroes. Like, I got through, like, the main conflict, and then I just kind of stopped because it was so good. Like, I didn't want it to get worse, I guess. Oh, yeah, and I need to talk to Ludleth. And so, Captini Laseri, welcome to the stream. You say that Kojima's stories are deeply rooted on trauma that the West caused on Japanese culture. I think that's true. I think that's true of, like, a lot of Japanese media in general. Let's talk to our little giant over here. And now that I said little giant, I'm thinking of Haikyuu, which is one of the most endearing anime I've seen, so. Now that we get the close-up look, we can see that he's got that kind of like red glow to him as well, which shows like he is kind of connected to the flame. He's been burnt. He's got those kind of Darth Vader eyes that I was talking about. And that like oversized crown on his head is just kind of comical to me. And he's got no legs, or he's like sitting with them underneath him. I kind of doubt that, just like the way that he's posing. I guess he's also got like an invisible table, because that is not a very comfortable pose when you really think about it. So.
Fret not. My feet are here firmly planted. For I am a lord, and this is my throne.
Jeremiah asks, you wonder how it may have influenced Miyazaki? Well, he's definitely taken a lot of interest in the folklore of the West, a lot of the aesthetics of the West, what I mean with these kind of medieval games. So, Bad Lad, I mentioned before on the last stream, he has gone through like a lot of the stuff that's been on like on Miyazaki's shelf in some of the interviews that they went through, and like you saw that he's like interested in things like related to occultism, a lot of I guess like board games as well as something he's super interested in. I don't remember a lot of that stuff on my head, but if you join my Discord, he'll be one of the guys to talk to see like what Miyazaki himself is looked into for sure. And so Hawaii pose. You love how Ludleth says, my legs here are firmly planted and has no legs. For sure. And Wenli says, you think it ends on a good note, all things considered, some interesting events unfold towards the end? Okay, I know it's supposed to be really good, it's just, I have a problem of just kind of stopping things if they're at a good spot. Like, there's a lot of games where I've gotten to like the final area or the last boss and just kind of stopped playing, probably because I enjoyed it so much I didn't want it to end, I guess, subliminally is what I thought, but yeah. I probably should pick it back up. Ludleth's real power can create invisible tables. It must be related to transposition, I guess.
Listen, this might pique thine interest. Before I was a Lord of Cinder, I was a student of transposition, the process of extracting and coalescing the essence of a soul. A forbidden art that once left a foul stain upon Corlin's honor. 'Tis an art that grants powers once thought unattainable. Most transposing kilns were lost with Corland, but this place is a crossing for all manner of cursed objects. If thou happenst upon a transposing kiln, bring it to me, quick.
Ludleth is so starved for attention his ring draws aggro. That is a really cool thought. Yeah, I didn't even think about it like that. Yeah. And then Captini says, there seems to be a lot of things related to alchemy in Miyazaki's work. Yeah. And so there's a really rich history between like Chinese alchemy and like Chinese medicine and Japan that it's really hard for me to kind of like follow those threads and or like know exactly what inspires people in Japan about like the Chinese medicine, and then like with Miyazaki's interest in just like the West in general, his interest in alchemy. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of parallels there that are interesting to try to piece apart and pick apart and piece back together. And you mean that old religious tradition of alchemy? Oh yeah, for sure. I don't know too much about it myself, but there's also a lot of more like esoteric occultist stuff like related to like the moon and alchemy, and that could be related to Quicksilver or Mercury. So definitely a lot to chew on there. And there's also like a lot of unresolved questions as to whether he's looked at like tarot and whether he's inspired by like tarot cards with like the Hanged Man or like the Tower and stuff like that. I don't buy into that so much myself. I just like the symbolism for a lot of that stuff, and that's probably something I might look into more later. Is Ludleth a pygmy? We talked about this last stream. It's kind of contested despite him calling himself like pygmy. So the term that he calls himself a pygmy in Japanese is kojin, which is like a little in person, and that's what they use to describe the furtive pygmy in Dark Souls 1. So if he refers to himself as a kojin, it might be that he is a pygmy, and that does bring up questions of whether he was a human or if humans are pygmies. I think it's likely pygmy could just be a different word for like a primitive human, or like the kinds of humans that existed and gave rise to the current day humans in these games. I guess rather than human, man might be a better term, but I don't know, it's kind of a bit muddied there. And so Red says Ludleth calls himself a pygmy outright in Japanese, but his throne is identical to the thrones of the pygmy lords in the Ring City, only his has an extra piece of cloth on it. Okay, that's an interesting detail. Thank you for bringing that up. I'll check that out too.
Listen, this might pique thine interest before the proactive move. If now.
So yeah, his cloth does seem pretty dilapidated and like faded, so it's kind of hard to see if there's even like any special significance to the design on it, but yeah. Okay, so I think that was everything in here, and now we can go back to the settlement and then deal with the tree, and then go see Sigurd and all the NPCs over there. And then Giacomo Rinaldi says, makes you wonder what else was lost in translation. Yeah, that's one of those things that's just kind of hard to keep together. Like it took me a long time to just go through like the raw text of Bloodborne, and then after having done that, like it does really take a lot of refinement to get it to a point where you can find the common threads in between like different descriptions or notes. Okay, cool. Gotta get used to a new weapon. So Tanner, thank you for the tenor. You said you wanted to say you enjoyed my shorter Fear the Old Little... Wow, I can't even say my own stuff. You wanted to say you enjoyed my shorter Fear the Old Lore videos recently. Makes it easier to share videos with friends, but you do really love these longer streams. Thank you for all the hard work, my dude. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. I appreciate like all of you guys coming in to chat. I don't want you guys to feel like obligated to donate or participate. Like, even if you don't want to like comment or you just want to lurk, that's perfectly fine. I do truly appreciate everybody's contributions to the streams, to correcting me about the lore with Dark Souls 3 that I'm still like learning about myself. And even if you guys feel like you're learning as well, that makes me happy that we can all just kind of enjoy this, even in like our own personal ways. And for making this kind of fun to do and having a nice, considerate audience, I'm just really thankful for right now. So thank you guys as well. So now with all that sappy stuff out of the way, let's go back into the chat. Red says, you think you can infer it in context in English anyway? Yeah, so like a lot of stuff really can be inferred through context, and there's definitely nothing wrong with that. But one of the reasons why I like to look at the Japanese, and Red knows me like more on like a personal level, is that it does clear up some of the ambiguity, or sometimes like the ambiguity can lead to interesting takes that aren't always available in the English. So I think it's perfectly fine if somebody doesn't want to listen to any of like my thoughts about the Japanese at all. Like that's perfectly fine. Like there is like such a thing as like the death of the author when like kind of like looking at these things and interpreting them. That's interesting. And people are certainly free to enjoy things their own way, and not everybody wants to have just like some random person giving their ideas out there. They like the way that the story fits in their head, and that's perfectly fine. Don't remember if I was going to make a more cogent point about that, but yeah. One thing that I do encourage others to do as well is like don't just like try to take me as like the end all be all of like lore or even like Japanese. Like I'm just one guy. I'm prone to making mistakes. I wouldn't say like my knowledge of Japanese is perfect. It's pretty easy to make mistakes or overlook things at times. So unfortunately, we don't have like a ton of people in the community who seem to look at the translational differences so much themselves. So it gets a little bit more difficult to do that at times. I probably should have paid attention that he actually had red eyes, so that's why he didn't die in like one hit anymore. So let me just slow down for a second to talk about some of the enemies here and finish up some of my thoughts. So, but yeah, going back to the translation stuff, don't take me as like the end-all be-all. There's another guy who's working on like a bunch of Bloodborne content, and I want to plug him because I've talked to him for a while. Like we're on good terms. We do help each other out. It's a Rookie Mania, and he does like the translation board series. And so if you guys have some free time, I highly recommend it. He's got some longer videos as well, about 15 minutes each, and he goes in through some of the localization differences like directly between the English and Japanese. And so it is really cool to me to see like where our translations align really closely compared to the English at times. So I do also have his translations included on my Bloodborne spreadsheets, so you can get like a much quicker look at all of those if you're interested as well. Right, so Amir says you don't need to donate, he says, and then he donates more. Thank you, I appreciate it, but you guys really don't have to do that, and I'm not just saying that, but thank you very much, I appreciate it. So yeah, these enemies right here are really cool in that they do seem to move in like a kind of coordinated fashion, and they are like all these cobbled people placed together. And it is a bit weird to me that like some of them have life, but not all of them do. And I should probably pay a bit more attention. Oh yeah, I forget this thing has like the overhand right. Okay. So Amir says, no, we shall not abandon the dream. No one can catch us. No one can stop us now. Ah ha ha ha. Ooh, a hunter is a hunter, even in a dream. Thank you. I appreciate that. Wikimania? Oh, sorry. Let me type in his channel name. Aruki Mania. Oh, Mania. Actually, let me just try to pull up a link real quick. Okay. Right there. That is his channel. Aruki Mania. He does Translationborn, all one word, so it's a little bit hard to find him unless you're in the know. So it took me a couple years, or maybe a bit over a year after I'd like gone through my Bloodborne translations before I even found his channel, and he had been starting on the Bloodborne stuff earlier than I had. So I was like, whoa, what the hell? Where was this information when I was first going through? Like I would have loved to have had, but yeah. That's his stuff. So Lavos asks, what even were the villagers doing with the caged hollows? Did they send them in the Greatwood Pit? That's a possibility. It seems like they could have been caging them for easier transportation, because we've got those guys that will walk with the cages on their backs, or like the big old like wooden planks. And so they could have been transporting them into the Greatwood as well. Okay, that's familiar. Okay. And then so we get some more of these evangelists, and then these people that'll like, come out of the houses and mess us up. Okay. I don't remember where the entrance. Okay. Oh, literally a staircase. Or not? Y'all can tell it's been a minute since I've played, huh? Actually, I can't move. This might be a bad idea. So it's really cool because like when that thing like hits the wall, it almost seems like blood flows out of it, and I think that must be deliberate, and that would like tie into like the whole like Dark Soul thing. So, getting a phone call. Bam, of course. And so yeah, the whole idea of like the soul being tied to blood is interesting to consider. I know like in the whole like Chinese medicine kind of thing that they did think that the soul resided in the liver, and like I guess like a lot of blood gets passed through there as well. I mean kidneys obviously like clean the blood, but that might be like part of the link of why the blood can be important too. I don't know. So that might be why like the blood can the souls can reside in the blood because it's adjacent to the liver, I guess. It's not entirely clear, but it's just one of those things that I think other people might be interested in wanting to learn about. So Justin says, you chalk it up to the lifeless ones being catatonic, similar to the item corpses you loot from. In the dungeon, you find those who are still alive. Indeed. So, Jeremiah, thank you for stopping in and commenting, and I hope you have a nice day. So, Red says, there are cage hollows in the Irithyll dungeon as well. Oh yeah, that's a good point. Which is kind of suggestive, especially since there are maggot monsters and a lycanthrope there as well. Lycanthrope there too, despite those enemies not being in Irithyll. But you think that all hollows being caged up is probably a control measure. Yeah, that's a fair point. What would those Xanthus scholars say? Xanthus scholars are weirdos. How'd I got ganked in here? Is it below? Oh, it's in the next... Okay, yeah. So yeah, coming into this next area, we will hear the lizard. Is it below in the... It's outside, isn't it? I thought there was something else over there. Oh, okay. I missed. Okay, that was a sharp gem. Okay. Some rusted coins, not too big. Then I think this goes back, yep, over to that shortcut. No. And then here's the next spot. Perfect. The Wender says he thinks that souls/essence of life lingering in the blood applies to each FromSoft games, or almost, and from a thematic standpoint it seems. And then Bridge says, oh, is that what happens when you visceral attack in Bloodborne? You pull out the liver? So yeah, so the word visceral is kind of like a play on words. Like in English, it means like, I don't know, like something bloody. think I rested, which I probably should. Like something very like strong or violent, but it's also like a play on words, and like the word that it comes from in Japanese is like inner organ, and so an older word for like inner organs in English is like viscera, something like that. And so it's literally like an attack on the viscera in English. So a little bit hard to appreciate that, but it's bad. I snorted. That was so bad. I'm just gonna go ahead and go back to the bonfire. Right, so going back. And Wender says, in Dark Souls 3, the soul of the Great Wolf, blood of the Dark Soul, and how you achieve your lost souls. You think so? They seem the same with reality. Yeah. So like a lot of that stuff is kind of related. So like the Abyss Walker Covenant is related to drinking like the blood of the wolf, and so they do become like bonded that way, and they kind of become like a singular organism from sharing blood, which is kind of cool. Okay, that's better. And so, you love how the wolf Baron just lies there dead. Can we get some floating candles, Lore? Nope. Unfortunately not. So yeah, as we come into this next area, we do see these gigantic spears, essentially, like sticking out of the ground. They're the arrows that are going to be shot from the giant at the top of the tower. Can you not even see him? Okay, yeah, you can. So, like, way over there. I do like that it does kind of like clarify the image when you use the binocular, so you can see him up there. And as you venture out there, unless you have, I think it's like the branch, he'll continue to shoot. And Justin says we also use the dark blood as pigment. So yeah, the painted world in a sense can be thought of like as a world that's made out of souls because of the blood, I guess. I never really thought about it from that way, but it's cool. I guess I'm losing some frames right now. Hopefully it gets a bit better. And then Mensch says, I don't know, after all these years, these games still never get old to me. It's so much fun watching and listening. Yeah, I'm glad that these games have like a lot of longevity. You see him shoot it? Oh. You can hear him. So you can see the arrows coming in, which is really, really cool. So this one's coming straight at me. Yeah, so stuff like that is just super cool to me. They do kind of like track, which is kind of cheap, but whatever. Agreed. Okay. Oh no, I lived. Maybe not. Damn it, I knew that was fire too. Okay. Guess your blood is probably affected by your soul. See Gale's blood. So yeah, this tree is a birch, and I guess it has like some like special magical properties. Let's go ahead and read that now. Oh, I didn't realize he would actually hit me on the side of the thing. So visceral probably comes from that. Yes, your blood is probably affected by your soul. Okay. Viscera, yes, it means your internal organs, kind of especially the intestines, but really anything. Yeah, so it's a little bit vague in English and in Japanese. but that's kind of what it works. So I think going with a visceral attack as a localization is kind of beautiful. Even if like the overall meaning slightly changes, I don't know. I just really like what they went with for that because it works on multiple levels. So, Hadric can invade here. Okay. Oh, should I Ember up? Maybe. This guy can drop rare weapons too. The Painted World also rots. Just like how blood turns to poison by rotting. Yeah, that's an interesting point. Now that you bring that up, Wonders, I never thought about that. Yeah, so some of the items like with the poison, they talk about coming from blood that's like dried or whatever. And so when we think about that that in the context of the painting, and how the painting itself becomes rotted, that definitely aligns with what we get. So I know, well, like once you get far enough back, fail to reach, and my iframes are not saving me. There's going to be a thrall over here. I'm just not having a good time. Mortician's ashes. And we can bring those ashes to the, I totally forgot to read the damn thing. We can totally bring the ashes to, the Shrine Handmaiden. If I die here, it's not that big a deal. Well, I didn't want to die like that, though. Okay. You can make the arrows only hit the enemies. Yeah, I could talk to him, but it's just kind of fun to die, I guess, like this. I don't know, make it a bit more challenging. And so, pretty good for footage, I guess, if I want to like make some bloopers, I guess. Not the worst thing in the world, for sure. So Tanner just remembered, in Bloodborne the world is vertically stacked, one nightmare on top of the other. DS3 is similar in that you can always look up to the previous areas and down to future areas. Less lore implication, just more parallel game design, I suppose. I didn't really think about it that way. Yeah, that is kind of true. Yeah, now that you mention it like that, I can totally see. Bone shard, biggest treasure, but it's about. Reinforced trousers. Okay. Get inside, get ganked, and then heal up. This one's got some red eyes. So that might not kill it. Okay. Great scythe. And then once we get near the tree, I'll go ahead and read some of those items. I do like this area that has like the little flowers. It's kind of pretty. So this is the door that was locked from the other side, warning us about the tree inside. Kind of weird that they made it that way, but whatever, I guess. Let's try and check out statue. They like decapitated women. Oh, they're pilgrims. Okay. It looks like they've got something growing on their back. So maybe that's what a pilgrim looks like without a shell? And speaking of pilgrims, like when you look at Yoel, like his face does kind of remind me of like a giant when you look at it without like the mask on. Like it's kind of that, for lack of a better word, like hollow spot in it. How many souls do I could probably level up. Yeah, I should. Let's just try it, and then I'll check out chat before. Okay, sorry about that. So, Wonder says there is vertical connectivity between areas in Dark Souls 1 in your opinion. See Ash Lake. Yeah, there's connectivity for sure. I guess they just did it a bit more as they went on. Then Giacomo Rinaldi says, notice how all the white trees grow in places connected to the dark. Cursed settlement, cursed cathedral, poisonous swamp, another poisonous swamp made out of literal darkness. Yeah, and so that's kind of one of the things that's interesting about like the powers that are related to the branch, which I totally didn't read but was going to. And then true, but with the drag heap at the bottom, it seems especially prominent in Dark Souls 3. Red says, you don't think anyone has looked into what those flowers might be? You're curious now? Interesting. I know there was a botanist that joined my server, so maybe they'll be able to provide some info about that. Need to ping them. You know, people in the Bloodborne lore community like to analyze flowers. Well, the floral imagery does come up quite a bit, and you can even see like some flowers on the designs in like the Cathedral of the Deep's tiles, and like maybe the ceilings as well. The flowers in Hunter's Dream grow out of cold blood and are supposed to be the same as the ritual material ones. I don't know what the ones in the dream are. I think that the cold blood flower buds are different just because they have like a different number of petals, and like the ones in the Hunter's Dream kind of resemble like lilies a bit more, whereas like cold blood flowers are obviously a bit more reminiscent of like sunflowers to an extent. And so Moon Presence is called Flora after all. Yeah, and bridge over fluoridated water brings up a good point with that. So Giacomo asks, or which begs the question, why can't I just pick up some to make the damn chalices? They're everywhere. Indeed, especially when you want to try to get to the deeper layers. Alright, so this is the young white branch. A young white branch, used to transform into something which blends into the surroundings. Little Dusk's first sorcerer staff eventually became a seedling, and then 3 white birch saplings. The young branch is said to still contain echoes of Little Dusk's capriciousness. So that's interesting that it references dusk specifically. I never really thought about what this branch meant so much. But yeah, with Ulasil being like related to like mushrooms and people becoming plants, that really does tie like a lot of things together with that theme. Not that it really needed it, it's just there is a bit more to it than just like, oh, like the hollows here are becoming trees, because like how the hell did Elizabeth become a mushroom and all of that. So yeah, and then when we do get into the barren swamp in a little bit, we will be able to find like potentially Elizabeth's corpse. So PS5 direct queue up is in 3 minutes, boys. Thank you, Depressed Warlock. Yeah, so if you guys are trying to get a PlayStation 5, you will be able to potentially get into the queue to get one. So good looking out. I appreciate that. Even if not everybody is interested or has the means. Still nice regardless. Oh god. Getting killed by the trash. So he hasn't become aggro yet? Oh, I lied. So hit the man in his sacks and he'll die. He'll take lots of damage. Oh, I'm still on the damn poison or whatever it is. It's a little bit bad on the hitboxes, but whatever. Maybe I shouldn't. Okay, yeah. I forgot I needed the I probably shouldn't have put the status screen as he was falling. I guess we could get some cool stuff here. So yeah, as we look into the cursed redwood tree, we look at and see that he's got like a bunch of corpses hanging from the top of it. It almost looks like they've got like stuff growing out of it, like each of the little sacks at the top. And then as you get into this phase, it opens up and the giant arm comes out of it. We see that it does kind of resemble the corpse of a giant in like Dark Souls 2. It's got like the 2 legs, 2 arms. What would have been its head is now open. And these lustrous blobs are like the only way to damage it. I think the wood itself will not. I think it has a grab, actually. Is that it? I think I'm poison, which is what that little purple aura is. So Captini says the music is really loud. Can't hear me? Okay, I'll turn that down. Hopefully that'll be a bit better. I know I had to like bump up the volume when we were like in the cutscene, so maybe just adjusting it manually from the what you call it, in-game settings will be enough. Now that I think about it, I should probably just warp to the other bonfire, the quick run up. So Mensch says, you always thought becoming a tree would be a nasty way to go to hell somehow, and then Dark Souls came up with these hollows becoming trees. When I realized that, I thought Miyazaki was reading your mind. And Tanner says, he always wondered why the branch protects you from the giant's arrows. You don't remember any connection between giants and Ulasil. Yeah, that's kind of weird. I guess there's, Go? The giant right next to like the arena, but not like a whole lot beyond that. But there does seem to be a bit more affinity between like humans and giants in general. And if you look like at some of the giant souls, there might be a bit more to that. I don't know, make of it too much more beyond that. Here. Did I ember up at that bonfire? No. Oh yeah, I should probably do that to go get invaded. Invaded, shouldn't I? Thank you for reminding me. And he invades, like, in the little settlement itself, doesn't he? Are we doing Japanese translations? Not so much one-to-one, just because I honestly haven't looked at, like, a lot of the Dark Souls descriptions in both languages, to be quite frank. But yeah, when I do mention some things that I have looked at, it'll just kind of be things that I've already looked at. Sorry, I just kind of like phrased that super poorly, but... So, I mean, I have looked at a few things, but not like nearly anything as much as I have in the Bloodborne scale. Go ahead and use the Ember. That'll restore my HP. And then we should get invaded. Okay, right here. Okay, so that's perfect. So I might get beaten. Does I mean, why not? Maybe I should use my binoculars just to come off. I don't remember if I have my binoculars out. So he has the Flamberge, which is pretty cool, and I guess he can use spells. I don't remember what spell that is. Did that heal him? I think so. He's got the poise on me. I do have it out. Come on, come away from the arrows. Slow. So that's where we get our first vertebra shackle from. So that went okay. Yeah, wasn't too bad, wasn't too great. Alright, I'll go to the bonfire and then travel to that other bonfire and catch up with chat. Oh, you guys mentioned a lot. So thank you, Captini, for reminding me. Makoda says, from my understanding, the giant is a follower of Go. He uses Go's bow. He won't target Dusk's memory. Oh, Go knew of Dusk and he uses the Hawk Ring. That's an interesting way to think of it, yeah. Either Descendant or the Knight of Gwyn himself. I don't think he's Go himself, but just for a few reasons, like the giants were said to have been killed in like Dark Souls 2. Although I guess, I mean, that doesn't disclude why they exist in 3, but yeah, I don't know. Let's think about that a bit more. So giants were basically used as a stand-in for humans in Dark Souls 2, so it could analyze the relationship between gods and humans from an outside perspective. And then humans obviously filling the role of gods in that comparison. Sorry, opposite perspective, not outside perspective. Tanner says, that is true. You guess you never made the connection since he never speaks of Ulasil directly. You kind of assumed he was there because of Artorias rather than any connection to the place. And James Nankervis, welcome to the stream. You said, you thought you dropped this in quick. There's a connection between people turning into trees and dragons, turning back to stone, for the Age of Ancients as the Age of Fire wears on. Yes, we've discussed that a decent amount as we've gone through the playthrough so far. So thank you for the comment. And you said, seems like another form of transcending the cycle of light and dark. That's an interesting way to think of it, and you might be right to a certain degree. I tend to think of it as maybe more of a regression past it, but yeah, I guess that's just kind of like splitting hairs, essentially. I'm just going to run past the Evangelist, hopefully, and deal with the tree. It's cool that there's like a bunch of like branches coming out of the boss arena, like the fog gate. So, oh, okay, yes. Touch the summon sign. Hopefully, Nepco Ha. Should I summon and get some views, third-party views? Actually, this fight's kind of weak. So unless it's one of you guys specifically, I won't do it. So I'll just read chat. So if any of you guys can confirm if you're Nepco Ha, let me know. So Coda says, "Hey, wait a minute. How did the giant get to the top of the tower? Lol, the elevators aren't good enough to get him there. Maybe he climbed. He's got long arms." Yeah, Justin says he climbed. But we can only call him by his true name, Perry Godric. The fact that he's at the tower and it's nonsensical makes you really think they're trying to make you understand how much he has to do with Go, given how we find him in a tower he couldn't get to. Oh, that's kind of a funny thought. Justin says, "You're invading me right now." Just remember I'm on PlayStation 4 if you guys do want to try and get me got. Giacomo Rinaldi says, "You could ask the same question about the two giants in the Cathedral of the Deep. I think they were born and grew inside the chapel. Maybe they built the chapel around them. It's kind of hard to say." And then, if the top of the tower is Go, then it would mean he's essentially hollowed as he can't form words anymore, and Go is incredibly well spoken even by the humans at that period. There are massive doors to the cathedral. Yeah, the ones to the front, which you can't really get into, are really big, so that's a fair point. And Tanner says, "How could it be Go after so long, but Andre doesn't look any worse for wear?" So I guess Miyazaki said that there's like the clan of Andre, so it's not supposed to be the same one from Dark Souls. Which is a little bit disappointing, but I mean, how else are you going to explain it? It could just be like Patch's lore, essentially. Just deal with it. We got another Red Eyes. Thank you, tree. Maybe I should look at it a bit more from this face. Okay, so he drops those pods. Those are what the fall, or like the acid and stuff. That's kind of cool. So the pods are probably just like decomposing people. That's what I'm going to assume. There's more sacks on his back, I guess not. So this hand is also vulnerable. I wonder how many fingers it has, actually. Probably look at it. So it looks like it has 5. Which, I mean, shouldn't be surprising by any means, but sometimes that kind of thing does become questionable. Oh sweet, I got that. it seems like he got vulnerable for a second. Yeah, so this fight's kind of like slow, a little bit tedious maybe. So it's definitely not a lot of people's favorite for many reasons. Just lag. Sorry, I'm not reading chat right now. Not very good at the multitasking, looking away and fighting, even though this is a really slow fight. And that was my chat. That's it. Okay, so we get the Soul of the Rotted Greatwood and the Transposing Kiln. So we'll check those out and I'll catch up on chat. So sorry if I missed something you guys said, just let me know if you want me to repeat it. So Coda says, if the top of the tower is Go, then it wouldn't mean he's essentially hollowed, as he can't even form words anymore, and Go was incredibly well spoken even by the humans of that period. Oh, I think I read that one. Okay. James says, cheers, wasn't sure if it had been mentioned yet as you just joined. Very cool to see so many people chatting lore. Oh yeah, no problem, man. Thank you for contributing. Even if we talk about it, I don't mind. So, Tiny Boots, nice to see you again. You say, human NPC enemies are harder than any boss, like Sir Vinhelm, for example. Lavo says, Andre does reference the Anne Orlando giant. It's very likely the same Smith. And then Bridge says, time to destroy the family jewels. Very well put. Talk about a weak spot. He bears strange fruit. Oh, jeez. And Giacomo says, well, Irithyll Dungeon first inmate was the giant, so it's not unfeasible that some buildings were planned with the giants in mind. And yeah, that's a fair point. I mean, especially like for the gods, like Anne Orlando is absolutely huge, so they probably were constructed by giants, I think is a very fair way to put it. And yeah. Tanner says, humanity's only weakness is R1 spam. If only Gwyn had known, wouldn't have had to bother with the whole dark sign business. Well, you see, Gwyn's real weakness was being parried, so if he R1 spammed, which he did, that kind of led to his downfall, so yeah. Soul of the Rotted Greatwood. One of the twisted souls steeped in strength. Used to acquire many souls or transposed to extract its true strength. Ever since its establishment, all manner of curses have managed to seep into the undead settlement. The worst of them were sealed away inside a spirit tree, but eventually the curses took their toll. So that's kind of interesting and maybe a little bit weird the way that this is phrased. I don't know if this is like a translation thing, but like just the fact that they're curses. So if we go back to the idea that potentially like life is a curse in Dark Souls, and that's like the related to the first sin, maybe that kind of fits that like the lives of the Hollows are curses. I don't know, it's kind of weird to me, but yeah. Anyway, like putting the corpses of Hollows into the Great Wood is what caused them to kind of congeal. And if we look at this soul, it looks like it's made out of a bunch of tiny ones, so it does kind of work together to make a big curse. And as we see with like all of the corpses and like the little cages, like it's not the only case of like something becoming a larger organism from like a bunch of smaller ones, I suppose. So Red says, Dark Souls 1 Andre never mentions the giant blacksmith like Dark Souls 3 Andre does. Mia's gone on record saying that they aren't the same Andre, So all's well in the world for you. Though imagining what a female in the clan of Andre looks is terrifying. Yeah. Mensch, good night. Thank you for joining in and staying as long as you have and commenting. I'll probably be ending shortly myself. I do like to try to go for about the 3-hour stream, but if content allows, I will try to go longer. But yeah. Is the Rotten Greatwood pagan tree or similar from Dark Souls 2? I don't know. I haven't gotten deep enough into Dark Souls 2 to be able to comment about that directly. So we've gotten some of these in earlier, but I just haven't read them. So we got the charcoal pine resin used in the undead settlement to preserve the undead bodies after dissection and to bury them. So it's kind of interesting that like pine resin is obviously like related to trees and it also allows things to burn. Like even in real life, like pine resin is used to like make torches traditionally, and so putting these on the bodies themselves would make them more vulnerable to flame, which we see like a lot of bodies being burnt there. But maybe there's some more deep attachments, just because like in Dark Souls, like if all of these creatures are created of the flame, like maybe this is their residual flame. So maybe that kind of pine resin is more related to like smearing the remains of dead people onto the body somewhat. I don't know. Interesting to think about, I guess. And so this is a bundle. Quickly applies fire to the right hand weapon. Does not last for long, but can be used in inventive ways, such as applying it in the middle of a series of blows. Guess I never really used that to know how it functions. So repair powder repairs equipped weapons and armor as long as they haven't already broken. Use if a weapon depletes its durability, eventually causing it to break. As long as a weapon is not broken, its durability can be restored at a bonfire, but for distant journeys, one may wish to prepare ahead. I don't think I've ever really had to use one of these in a normal playthrough, so maybe it's more of a concern for like speedrunners or something. I'm not sure. So the undead bone shard. Oh, I should have used this. Cast it into the shrine bonfire to boost the recovery boosted by the Estus flask. The bonfire cinders are the bones of the undead, and a bone that still burns is a fresh cinder indeed. Before feeding upon death, one must first pray to it. So yeah, we can offer the bones of the dead to essentially increase the heat capacity of our Estus flasks. So it's kind of interesting that like death is related to like the souls and everything, and death is kind of what we use to reinforce ourselves. So this is kind of like a theme that gets used a lot, and obviously like with the alluring skull, like I don't think it's like a literal, well maybe it is a literal skull since it says throw to shatter. So yeah, souls do seem to be like stuck in bones and blood, and there is blood in bones, so maybe it just kind of all really relates together, I guess. Going back to chat. Not the same tree. Dark Souls 2 Shulva tree is never called spirit tree or receiving curses, but it could be a spirit tree. You think they all have deep lore, Kerm, and that they get deeper when you compare them and dive into themes. James asks, is there a correlation between the cursed Greatwood and the cursed monument in the Ringed City being a surrogate for the curse? The Undead curse specifically? I don't remember the cursed monument in the Ringed City, but there probably is a correlation. Just being able to infect an area, I guess for lack of a better term, with like the corpses or the bodies or like the wishes and the wills and the desires, the spirits of the dead can cause it to become a curse, because like they have lingering emotions, and negative emotions are more associated with curses. As you can see in like New Londo in like Dark Souls 1, you have to be cursed to fight curses. It's kind of interesting to consider. And like those ghosts are supposed to be ghosts because of their emotions, I guess. So Captini says, you were thinking that it might be a similar tree because you can find a whip near the rotten great tree. Only in function, both as vessels for curses. Okay. Do you think the Andres are born with the beard, or does the father pass it down? It's a good question. And then Kerm says, you guess if you compare open-ended concepts that you have to interrupt, yeah, they're all very deep. Okay, interpret, okay. Guess if you compare open-ended concepts that you have to interpret, yeah, they're all very deep. Okay, I see what you mean. The Ring City Monument has the same functions as Velka's statue. And then the Purging Monument is what... Okay, it's what Patches looks for, but he can't claim his memory. Yeah, I don't know how well like the tree would connect into that, but I'll try to remember that as we get closer and form my thoughts more about that. So yeah, I did forget to mention, like, when the tree breaks the arena up top, we fall down to where the mound makers were. I guess I forgot to grab my souls from earlier. So it's a good thing I didn't die. And so this is where Hodrick was. And he's who invaded us, and now he's no longer here. So yeah, it's kind of some cool stuff. And then now we get a bonfire down here, which was not available before. Which is kind of weird to think about, but I don't know, just kind of have to roll with it. Like, I think they said, like, you were originally supposed to fight the Greatwood over in the Profaned Capital, and so, like, that note about, like, only the greatest, like, storms can fell, like, the mightiest trees is supposed to have been a reference to this tree. So, yeah, like, maybe stuff got shifted around, and so, like, they didn't really have a good way to get out of here, because there is no exit. You have to use this bonfire to get out, but... Go back to the Firelink Shrine. We'll probably just finish up talking to the NPCs over there and probably conclude the stream for today from there. So Coda says... Nope. James says, thanks, you couldn't remember the name of it. What's my top 3 Souls games? I would say Bloodborne, Dark Souls 1, and then Dark Souls 3. I don't necessarily like think that Dark Souls 3 is worse. That's just kind of how I prefer them. Like, there's a certain charm to Dark Souls 1 that I really enjoy, but as far as like the lore and the general aesthetics go and the pace of the combat, I think I prefer Bloodborne the most. What was I doing? Oh yeah, I was going to talk to Ludus. Watch me throw a bomb. Okay, no. Alright, this should be good. So annoying that I have to do it this way.
Fret not, fret not. My feet are here firmly planted. For I am a lord, and this is my throne. Oh, belike it is a transposing kiln in thy possession. Seen better days, but methinks it shall suffice. Now, bring to me a twisted soul. Transposition is the art of extracting and coalescing the essence of a soul. In transposing a twisted soul, its true power transferreth to thee. Thy purpose is to seek lords and slay them. What's to fear in a little transposition now?
So James asks that because the Purging Stone's descriptions talk about removing the curse, or rather taking the curse, especially relevant in DS1 as those stones will remove the curse status effect. Why stone? I don't really think the stone part is important, other than it's like the vessel which contains like the skull or something human within it. And so the game states that you don't really remove or like purge curses unless you like talk to Velka, I guess. So you transfer a curse from a person essentially to another person, and for some reason the purging stones act as a kind of a surrogate person. Like, it has its own style of humanity like latent within the stone, and when you get them from like the man-eating clams, I forget what they're actually called, like they might have, when they've got so many skulls like within them already, they kind of like make a pearl out of human remains, I guess, which is pretty metal. But yeah, so there's something special about like the human aspect of the stone rather than it being a stone or like a product of like a pearl of some kind. And so Red says he'd say it's because stone is kind of like a symbol of emptiness, a la the Age of Ancients, so it's a good vessel for things. Yeah, that's a good point as well. So I think if you like had a petrified anything, really, anything like really human, you could probably do it. Maybe not like crystals. That's kind of a weird thing to think about. But yeah. It's pretty like endemic in Japanese culture to think like objects are kami, or that they can possess kami, or like spirits or anima. Yeah, so it isn't too uncommon to think that like objects can become possessed, although possessed might be a little bit of a strong word. So with the corpses of the Greatwood infecting the tree itself, that's just kind of natural because that's like the closest thing to them, both spiritually and physically, I guess. But yeah, kind of weird to think about, I suppose. Wender says, other things can be vessels for curses. Humans, for instance, you think you receive Yol's curse by accumulating the sigils. Yeah, and that's also another tie-in. Like, they can be passed to others, and we'll continue with Yol a little bit shortly here. Justin Time says, transposing kiln looks like the crystal lizard hide, which is also how you level up boss weapons. Yeah, and I was going to bring that up too. So, actually, I almost did I give it to him? I meant to look at it before. I think it stays in the inventory. I meant to read it, but I think I forgot. Oh well. Oh, I also need to give that to AD. Okay. Yeah, so Justin brought up a good point. Like the transposing kiln does resemble like the crystal lizard hides, and I think it also resembles the inside of like Filianor's egg, and that resembles what are like the things that can exist. Wow, that's a terrible description, isn't it? Like the things that allow items to appear from like players. Can't remember what they're called. Like the wandering egg looking like things. Sorry, terrible description. So Tanner says humanity is essentially all split pieces of the furtive pygmy soul. It makes sense then that as large amounts of dead humans gather, they form one larger, stronger being. Yeah, that's also a potential way to look at it. And even like the Lord Souls is true of that to some degree as well. And then Coda says the Purging Stone isn't a stone, it's a calcified bone. Potentially, yeah. The Wender says, yes, you think the soul transposition in each game or equivalent is related to Seath. Ornifex in Dark Souls 2 confirms it originates from him as well. Yeah, and I think Wenders may have had me look at that as well. And so, yeah, there is a pretty strong like lineage of transposition or like experimentation on souls stemming from Seath. And that's probably why like Seath went mad, and that might have been like why they were experimenting on creating like false dragons in Dark Souls 2 and all of that stuff. And so like wasn't it like one of the souls was even made from like the bone of a dragon, which is kind of crazy to think about. Justin says the stone spikes come out of you when you get cursed and you become a statue. Since only cursed beings can contact curses, it makes sense the purging stones are all made of cursed statues. Vagrants, yes, wandering vagrants, thank you. Purging stones are little stones of cursed people. Yeah, I think that's the way that it should be taken. Maybe the people weren't cursed, but maybe like consuming dead bodies can bestow curses onto like stones. That's the way that I think about it, because like the clams have like a bunch of skulls in them.
Aha, that so happened upon any twisted souls?
Hollow Slayer Greatsword, Ort's Great Hammer, Arstor's Spear, and Pontiff's Left Eye. Oh yeah, so someone was telling me this is kind of like the rally effect thing. So I might go for this. Let's go ahead and read these now. So let me get a little bit of water before. Right. Great sword used for a lifetime by a masked knight. Harbors the fears that lurk within the minds of hollows and is particularly effective against them. Bestowed to a proper Mira knight long ago, two-hand to execute special sword techniques. So yeah, that's really cool that we get from the soul of the Routed Greatwood, the Hollow Slayer Greatsword, and whatever fears that hollows have is imbued within the sword. I don't exactly know what that means, but it sounds really interesting to me. And I don't know what night it's referencing, so if anybody in the comments has a better idea, by all means, feel free. So, Great Hammer wielded by Vort, the Outrider Knight of the Boreal Valley. Weapon is imbued with frost and causes frostbite. Frost accumulates in the body, causing frostbite, which saps one's health, lowers absorption, and slows stamina recovery. So, I just kind of now learned that. I was always curious what that status did. I guess I can't even equip these yet. So I need a lot more strength or dex. So one of the curses that festered within the belly of the Greatwood, and a terrible weapon favored by Earl Arstor the Impaler. The spear is enwreathed in rotten, heavily poisonous meat. Defeating foes restores HP. So I guess this kind of has a HP dealing effect as well. It's interesting. So yeah, because it's made out of the Greatwood, it could just be a property of wood to absorb souls latently, I guess, or like health vitality from things that are living. That's kind of an interesting way to think about that. And the rotten, heavily poisonous meat is obviously like due to like the rotted, decomposing flesh of all the corpses attached to it. But it is also interesting that that stuff gets imparted to the soul itself. I don't really know how significant that is from like a lore perspective. Some people have like wondered if like the Lord Souls themselves have special properties, or if by having a certain amount of souls, like certain things have certain properties. It would almost seem like the latter, that there might have been something special potentially about Gwyn, the witch, and Nito that allowed the souls within them to have like certain properties rather than the souls themselves having certain properties, but who's to say for sure. And then James says, suppose you're trying to draw a connection between stones, transformation, the curse, and trees, and how trees can petrify as they age, but don't have enough to bridge the gap. Thank you for the food for thought, chaps. Yes, thank you for your questions as well. I appreciate it. So yeah, there isn't a lot to go on, but when we do get into like the Ring City, we will see that like there is a lot of relationships between like humanity and crystals. And when we look at Seath, like he's researching crystals, and part of the reason for that is because he doesn't have a dragon scales, he isn't immortal, so he's mortal. And so by researching crystal magic, he's kind of trying to find a surrogate for the everlasting scales of dragons. But the nature of the soul is kind of related to humanity and crystals in general somehow. So yeah, that's kind of weird, because curses are also related to like stone, but not necessarily crystals. So yeah, it's kind of hard to parse all of that together sometimes. But I don't think anybody has like a perfect answer yet, or if they do, I haven't seen it. But that is something I do kind of want to examine more on my free time myself. Wonder says, consider that Hollows in Dark Souls 3s are turning into trees, and Dark Souls 2 has stone soldiers who become stonish by waiting. Giants are also associated with trees and stones, and arc trees are described as being made of stone according to some carving descriptions. Yeah, exactly. So James says, the ones in Lothric Castle really hammer that home. Also, Dark Souls 3 has hollow gems. Yeah, hollow gems, that'll definitely be a thing as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get this, because I don't really want hammer, so may as well get some rally. So that's that for now.
Knowest thou of our purpose?
Okay.
5 thrones will take 5 lords.
Maybe I didn't see this one.
For the linking of the fire.
Whatever.
Knowest thou of our purpose? 5 thrones will take 5 lords as kindling for the linking of the fire. The fast fading flame must be linked to preserve this world. A reenactment of the first linking of the fire. So it is, I became a Lord of Cinder. I may be but small, but I will die a Colossus.
I think it might be that line where he calls himself the Pygmy, but I don't remember for sure off the top of my head. So Exilia, welcome back. You say, what even caused his betrayal? Sorry if off topic. Are you talking about Ludleth's betrayal or somebody else's?
Do not be away over long.
Damn it. I was not trying to touch the bloodstain.
You haven't given up yet. Then you're a brasher lad than I thought. You can make better use of this.
You gem?
I don't need it. Not now I've flown the coop.
And so Seath's betrayal is probably due to him being jealous of the other dragons, that they are ageless, they have the everlasting scales, whereas he is Seath the scaleless, and so his research was to try to find a substitute for scales, and that's where he came up with like the primordial crystal. And so that's why when you initiate the boss fight with Seath, you have to like break that crystal first, and it makes him mortal again, because the first time you fight him, he will kill you, like it's scripted. So yeah. It does seem to be jealousy, or maybe he just wanted more power for himself, and killing the dragons was the way to do that. He is kind of like that mad scholar figure, so it might have been in his interest to kill dragons and study what made them immortal so that he could learn it for himself. But it ended up driving him mad, which is kind of a reused trope in these games.
The Undead Legion of Farron is a caravan of undead, sworn by wolf's blood to contain the abyss. The Legion will bury a kingdom at the first sign of exposure. Joyous bunch, really. Gaining admission to the Legion is a matter of some ceremony. Inside their keep, snuffing out the flames of 3 altars opens the door to the wolf blood. Even accursed undead want to believe they're special, it seems. I pity the sorry souls. Gaining admission to the Legion is a matter of some ceremony. Eli.
So yeah, that's pretty much his lines, and this kind of reveals to us what we need to do to gain access to the what is it, the Farron swamp and that area over there. So yeah, both Seath and Osiris both curse you with crystals. Why are crystals cursed? So crystals are potentially close to like the essence of life in this game, and so like when you get at like the Great Crystal Homing Mass or whatever it's called, the one that talks about like Logan, it's that he was searching like the nature of life itself, and the homing part of it is because life is attracted to life in these games, and that's what allows the crystals to like chase their prey, which is kind of like related to like affinity or the pursuer spells. So it kind of goes back into like fire, crystal magic, or like sorceries, all of that stuff, and even like dark magic. They're all fundamentally related to life in these games, and life is like attracted to itself, I guess. So yeah. And so how that exactly breaks down into like stone and petrification is a matter of debate, and that is like potentially why, you know, the world is just like made of like arc stones and arc trees and dragons before like fire came and created disparity. So there's a good chance that like the minerals of like stones and crystals could just be like the natural state of the world before the flame, but hard to say for sure.
Oh, our champion of Ash. Welcome back. I would do anything for my master. Just say the word. As I have said, I was once a sorcerer. Alas, the magic of Londor is a far cry from the wonders of Vinheim. But I can teach you what I know. Perhaps, more importantly, I believe that I can help tease out your true strength. We pilgrims of Londor are keenly aware that those branded by the dark side possess something quite special.
Yeah, and I realized I looked at that before, but
Champion
even his
of
staff is
Ash.
made out of a tree, and so there is like a connection between like pyromancy and trees, and like a lot of the catalysts and stuff are related to trees. And so pyromancy is also close to the nature of nature. So yeah, it's kind of hard to figure out where the lines lie, but they're kind of all related. So if you just think of like life being in everything that's kind of related to all of this stuff, it kind of works out, I guess. Sorry I kind of worded that poorly, but hopefully it was a bit understandable despite myself.
Oh, hello. You've come at a good time. It took some prowling, but I finally made a score. Go on, have a gander.
So yeah, after you like defeat a boss, he should return.
You can keep the ring as, well, a little trinket of thanks, I suppose.
Spencer Stevens, thanks for dropping in. We're actually going to be ending soon, but I appreciate the nice comment. So I don't think there's anything else I want to buy. So the Zweihander. I stand corrected. I definitely want that. Okay. I don't know if it's nearly as good as it was in like Dark Souls 1, but I can only hope. Where's the weight? Okay.
Goodbye. And stay. Oh, this.
Oh, and I need to give the ash to the other lady.
Ah, well met, Ashen One. How may I be of service?
I didn't even read this yet. Hold on.
Ashen One, be sure to bring more.
I'll catch up on chat right before I read that. Okay. So James says, you suppose it points to the cyclical nature of life. Even in the strange world, the kiln that spawned the first flame was in the arc tree. The hollow-like figures find the flame in souls. And yeah, so there is like a lot of parallels between like the hollow nature of the trees, the hollow nature of humans, and just like vessels in general. And so that's kind of interesting to think about. Like even the bed of chaos can kind of be thought of as like the vessel of chaos, as well as like the whole motif relating to seeds and seed beds and gardens and nurseries and trees and all of that kind of stuff. His skin tone is the same as the dregs in the dreg heap. Interesting. So Wender says petrification turns you to stone. Mia says that dragons and basilisks are made of minerals. Also, white breath sorcery is according to the description not unique to Seath. Petrification is related to dragons. First flame was in pit where Dark-Eater Medir boss fight is. Then James says Seath was mortal, so he had the usual cravings that come with life. The curse of life is the curse of want. I think that it highlights the differences between the uncaring ancient dragons and the mortals, yes. And so there is the question of whether or not Seath was different from the everlasting dragons and potentially only came to be after the first flame existed, and he is a product of disparity. I think that's a potential way to read it. And so, yeah. Wender says, sorcery and pyromancy both infringe on humanity according to the Black Serpent description. Exactly. And James says, what makes you think that? Interesting, and I've not heard it before. You find it odd that Gwyn would keep the kiln and source of his power so near his biggest threat. And that was to Captini. Okay. So these are the Mortician's Ashes. These are umbral ash of a resident of the Undead settlement who made a living bearing corpses. With this, the Shrine Handmaiden will prepare new items. So, umbral ash, the Japanese just means like the cremains, so it's just like somebody who is cremated, I guess. Like these are like literally the ashes of their remains, which should be pretty straightforward, but kind of interesting that how much more explicit it is. There's a lot to talk about actually. Yeah, okay.
Ah, well met, Ashen One. How may I be of service? Gracious, passing fine ash thou'st given. Let this ash bestow nourishment. I only hope these new wares content thee.
So it's kind of weird that she's able to compose new items out of those ashes. However, maybe the more natural way to think about it would be like, if the Ashen One can spawn in with items and weapons, maybe there's a bit more of a kind of human connection to those items, and so maybe that's why she's able to do it just from ashes. Other than that, I would have no idea how that really works.
Ashen One, if my wares are not to thy spring, is it?
So we get the grave key. Okay, yeah, we'll definitely want to buy that. And I'm not too worried about anything else.
Ashen One.
Try to level up before
Welcome
talking to
home.
Yoel again.
Very well, then take no.
I need more dex.
Farewell, I've made a...
Yeah, just one more point. Okay. And then I'll be overweight.
Welcome. Very well, then take no. Let these souls withdrawn from their vessels, manifestations. Farewell, Ash.
I don't think she has anything left to say, but I'll just double check.
Welcome home, Ashen One.
Damn it, I made her gesture. Because I gestured, I guess.
Welcome home, Ashen One. Welcome home, Ashen One.
Seriously?
Welcome home, speak thine heart. Ashen One, to be unkindled is...
She's just gesturing when I pull out the binoculars. Okay, whatever. Talk to Yoel, and then probably conclude things from there. That'll have to do for now.
Oh, our champion. Then shall we bear? Be safe. Oh,
Okay, so I'm gonna
Be safe.
go ahead and warp back to like the sewer area. Maybe I should... Oh, this has a thrust this time? Not cool. Whatever, I'll try it out. Then maybe switch. Yeah, I'm gonna go back to the sewer area. Yeah, screw it. And that'll be a good starting point for the next stream, just so I remember what I was gonna do there. So Exilia says that about Seath makes the betrayal easier to understand. Wender says human pine resin description is interesting. James says, I get where you're coming from. In your own head and canon, you have difficulty reconciling the differences we see between the kiln of the first flame in Dark Souls 1 and the cave that Midir is in Nizarena. Then James says, also, why would the dark be strong where the first flame is? Dark Eater Midir's job is to keep the dark at bay. I thought the darkness stemmed from the pygmies and the concentration of the dark soul that they share. Justin says, to be fair, James, the area where the pygmy found the Dark Soul might not be the kiln of the first flame. Maybe it's meant to be evocative of that scene in Dark Souls 1, however, like a dark counterpart to the kiln. I don't know. And then Captini says, you always thought it was the first flame was moved from there. You don't know why Midir was there. You used to think similar, but you once saw a video side to side with the opening, and Midir's lair is totally similar. Yeah, very true too. From the opening it says the lords found the souls in the flame, and is worded in a way that includes the pygmy. I guess at least that's how you interpret it. Tanner says, thanks again for the stream today. You can't wait for the next one. Love being part of this with the rest of you guys. Yes, thank you, Tanner, and for everybody who's shown up. So yeah, that'll pretty much be it for today, I think. It was a pretty fun stream. Maybe didn't get as many bosses down as I wanted, but definitely got a lot more lore through, especially with like the items and stuff like that. So yeah, that's pretty much it for now. Hopefully we'll get members soon, or like the channel membership to kind of like cement everything, and we'll learn a bit more about that as we go. So once again, I want to thank like Tanner and Amir for donating, and everybody else who's donated. I definitely appreciated that, and hopefully we'll be able to continue the stream without too many issues. And yeah, once again, thank everybody for stopping by and chatting or lurking. I appreciate it, and have a good day or a good night wherever you're from. See you next time. And this will go live again tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I'll think about the weekend, although it doesn't always work out very well for me. So that'll be it.